All right.
All right. How do you say your last name, Paul?
Nicolussi, I am
Nicolussi. I almost want to say Nicolussi, but I feel like I was gonna mess it up if I said that.
oh, it's all good. I'm an Italian who definitely does not look Italian.
Oh man. All right. I've only been up for like an hour, so forgive me.
Okay.
I all transparency. I did some psilocybin yesterday. It
Okay.
just kept me up pretty late.
Right on. I had to wake up early for work at like 4.
Are you
So,
are you an early riser every day?
I got to that point to where I had to work early, and if I didn't have to work early, I had to work overtime. So I tried to get up early
Yeah.
and just get a lot of stuff done before work, whether it's working out, reading, looking at my investments, looking at the market.
Yeah.
It's just a healthy habit.
Mhm.
I read a lot of books. Obviously, I look at like successful people in various walks of life. They tend to wake up early.
Yeah. It's common.
And
It's a common
yeah,
trait.
a lot of CEOs and stuff or gym people, you wouldn't surprise they're not really jacked or ripped, but they go to the gym at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, and set their day up. So I try to live that life. I mean, on the weekends, obviously, I do social things. I sleep in a little later, but today I had to work, so yeah, I had to get up early.
Really?
Yes,
Do you
sir.
normally work on Saturdays?
No, I mean I work at a really nice company,
No.
Lind Energy. It's in Sauget, Illinois. It's actually they own the company I work at, Praxair, so it's a large conglomerate, and they're really cool. They give us holidays off, like we're off Thursday and Friday next week.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, we had to make it up today.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Right on, man. Yeah, I typically wake up pretty early. I'm usually up by between like I'd say like 5:30 and 6 most days.
Yeah, that's a good time.
Yeah. But you're usually up by 4.
During the week, it's usually about today we worked earlier, so we get out of there earlier. It's usually about 5 or 5:30.
Okay. What's a typical day look like for you?
Oh wow, okay. Well, I do have a routine. I'm a creature of habit.
Okay.
I wake up, let's say 5 o'clock. I stretch for 15 minutes, and then I go to the gym for about an hour and a half, hour maybe, depends on the body part. Then I go to work.
Okay.
And then, say, I also invest in real estate too. So when I get off work, I tend to talk to, my guy I'm working with, what we're going to do later down the road.
Yeah.
Me and my planner, good friends. I train him too. We talk about the market, what's going on, just interesting stuff like that, and how I can better my life and how I can set up the next day. And I'm just such a planner. Even now, like I'm not doing any bodybuilding shows for a couple of years. We let my body recover from this year's hectic prep. But I just plan on my food. Like, what am I going to eat? Do I have enough food at the house for this prep meal, this meal? Or, I just know what I'm going to do all the time to a fault. It's kind of neurotic. I know
Yeah.
I can tell you what I'm going to be doing this time tomorrow.
It's like the far end of the spectrum, like wanting all the data, having everything structured.
Yeah, and I am a structured person and somewhat of a tactician. I like to plan things.
Yeah.
I take things somewhat in. I take it somewhat slow. I try not to act rash, but I'm human. I do it sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we all do that, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's a good quality to have, though, right? Being structured, having
Sure.
plans, right?
I mean, people tend to be successful that way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you see a lot of common traits among successful people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, getting up early, taking care of your body, having that daily schedule. You tend to see that across the board.
Oh, sure. And then, like, putting healthy stuff in your body, it makes your mind healthy.
Yeah.
Like, when my diet's on, I think better. Like, if like, Sunday, especially when there's no shows coming up, I let go.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a big drinker. I might have a beer or two and a little bit of whiskey, and I go off my diet. I feel horrible Monday. I'm like, oh, man,
Yeah.
life sucks.
Yeah.
You just kind of don't know if that kind of food hits your brain and
Yeah.
does inflammation. I've read studies like that, but then, like, once I get back on track, I feel and act better,
Right.
But in the time you're having fun, like, when you're watching football or fights with your boys, it's how it goes.
Yeah, everything in moderation.
Absolutely.
I haven't drank in almost a year and a half.
I was on prep from the day after the Super Bowl, basically to October 9th, with just a little break in between my contests. So I totally relate.
What's prep like for you?
Oh man, I like to take my time. I'm an older bodybuilder, and I'm not getting into the weeds on drug free versus the guys who use enhanced stuff, but we are drug tested. We're natural. So
All natty, baby.
yeah, all natty. We can take supplements and stuff, but I mean, there's a lot of compounds and stuff we can't do. Basically, anything.
No, like anabolics.
No. We have a long list of stuff we can't take. We can't even take a lot of stuff at the shop, like a lot of stimulants and of course the pro hormones, SARMs, all that. Even stuff you buy at the shops.
Oh yeah.
Illegal in my Fed. We have a list of stuff that's unreal. I got my drug test back. I'm like, oh my god, I don't even know what a lot of this stuff is. It's like 4 pages.
Yeah.
It's right there with the Olympics, if not better. So like that said, we don't get a lot of help. You really gotta be on your diet. You don't have room for error
Mm.
at all. So I take a long time. Like I dieted from February to June 18th. Not proud of this, but I lost about 30 something pounds. I got a little out of shape in the off season. I thought I was a lot more ripped than I was. Once I actually got stage ready, I'm like, that 210 was kind of sloppy.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that was what it was.
Were you like dirty bulking?
Yeah, I was dirty bulking. Yeah, and I wasn't training martial arts for the first time in a while,
Okay.
or doing any cool Spartan races. I had neck surgery in 2019. So just to be completely honest with you, when I started prep, I wasn't sure if my body could handle dehydration, low body fat for long periods of time. I thought that disc might give on me again.
Mm.
I got an artificial disc in my C6 right now.
Oh wow.
But not only did I compete, this was the best year of my career, hands down. I won the 40 and up IPE's Masters World Championship, which is the best title a 40-plus-year-old bodybuilder can win.
That's rad, man. Congrats.
Yeah, and I'm still taking it in. It doesn't sound right, me telling you I won that. It just, I'm a, obviously good competitor. I'm
Yeah.
pro, but to think I was going to be a world champion, especially with some of the people who won it before, I'm like, I'm in that class now. Now I got to maybe try to beat these guys when I come back.
Was that your goal actually going into it, or were you just trying to like, just see what you could do?
I mean, you're a competitor. Every jiu-jitsu match you do, you want to win. You want to win,
Right.
Masters Worlds in Vegas. You don't want to lose.
Yeah.
But you're just still like, holy mackerel, this is the best of the best, and that's me now. You're like, wow.
Yeah.
Of course I plan on it. The way we work, the way we wake up. I mean, you're always sore. Like
It's a
after
lot of discipline
jiu-jitsu.
going into bodybuilding.
It's a lot of discipline. Like doing the martial arts, it's a lot more work. It's a lot more physical pain. It's like, okay, this guy over here, like, when I did the Naga, that's a pretty rough kind of style jiu-jitsu tournament. It's kind of anything goes, I lost a match. I had a guy, double-legged him. I was in the guillotine, and the guy rolled out and he ended up getting me. We were rolling all over outside the ring. They didn't stop it, and I don't think the ref should have because he had a good hold. But, I mean...
You let him finish the submission.
Oh, sure. I mean, I think you should. But the thing is, though, when we do jiu-jitsu, we're real respectful towards each other. That's one thing I liked about it. Like, you could hurt somebody anytime, but you don't. You respect the guy.
Right.
You don't snap an ankle. You don't break an arm. You don't choke a man out, But the training I did for martial arts really got me ready for the bodybuilding training because it's a lot more difficult. What's more difficult about the bodybuilding is holding low body fat for so long.
Yeah.
Because you want to get in shape early, and you want to start to gradually eat more and fill your body out. But when you function on about 5% body fat for 3 weeks to a month, you get a lot of bad symptoms of a guy with low body fat. You've been there.
Yeah, it's not healthy.
No, and to hold it so long. And this year, I mean, I'm not sure if this is a mistake because I want to compete in St. Louis as a pro. My hometown, never got to do it. I did it in 2018. Keith Hunter at the St. Louis Naturals had the Open Pro and a Masters Pro. So I basically got to compete against young guys and the older competitors too. And it was good, like doing two shows in one is in front of my hometown. A lot of people got to see me compete that never would. But being on prep for that, then having that little lull period between October is a long time. So the first 10 months of the year, I was on prep for 8.5 of them. So the first about 45 weeks of the year, I was dieting 35 of them in a calorie deficit.
Wow. Dude,
And
that's intense, man.
It's intense, yeah.
Yeah, so MMA and jiu-jitsu and like just different combat
Right.
sports, like there's that physical kind of like beating down
Oh,
just from like just the
sure.
pounding with other people. But I think the probably closest aspect of like fighting to bodybuilding is like it's like that weight cutting period,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And if you're a smart fighter, not every fighter does a little bit different. Like
Sure.
some people will cut 20, 30 pounds of water. Like I've seen it happen.
Yeah,
it's insane. I don't know how they do
And
it.
like coming from the world of wrestling, I never thought that was a good idea. I just I'm going to walk around comfortable. I got out of a calorie deficit the last 3 days of a weigh-in. I'd cut a little water that day, nothing crazy. Weigh in and then eat. I just think your body's funky when you get in a calorie deficit too long and you're not on your A game.
Yeah, if you're in a calorie deficit too
Right.
long, right? Which I think that's probably why some people try to do the water. Maybe in their mind it's just like,
Right.
all right, I'll just cut all this water real fast and I'll rehydrate it, and then I'll do okay. But man, that's hard. I've never been able to do that. So I diet down. I would try to diet, just be real clean on my diet, get down to I don't know, probably like 8, between 8 and 12 pounds is usually where I'd get, and then I'd cut that with water. But when you start that water cut, I mean, you've already at that point probably been dieting for a month.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you're probably pretty depleted. At least I was. I was usually pretty depleted. By the time I start my water cut, I probably hadn't had solid food for at least 24 hours at that point. Like I'm usually just like doing smoothies or something, just
Yeah.
all easily digestible stuff. staying really hydrated up until the moment I'm about to cut water weight.
And a lot of it depends on when the weigh-in is too for the tournament. Like the Naga had the night before, so I couldn't do it.
Well, with fighting, it was always the night before.
Yeah.
We always got 24 hours to rehydrate. Now with bodybuilding, is it how does that work? I mean, there's not like a weigh-in or anything, right? You just want to be as dehydrated as you possibly can, right? So whenever you step on the stage, you look great.
Well, I'm glad you touched on that because a lot of people do it a certain way. Like you says, everybody does it different. I don't dehydrate for bodybuilding shows. I get ripped. I drank 2 gallons of water the day before, and just because I'm such a creature of habit, I'd probably just quit drinking water about 6:30 or 7 every night just because I don't want to wake up all night using the restroom. You know, so I'm getting older. Yeah, in my mid-40s, I got to wake up to use the restroom more, so I just kind of cut it off anyway.
Yeah, give yourself some time.
So I'm under the impression I look great a week out. I'm drinking 2 gallons of water a day the whole time up until the show. My body's naturally going to get rid of it.
Oh, wow.
I'm really low body fat, 5% body fat, nowhere for the water to go. Wake up the day of the show looking ripped. I might drink about 1.5 liters before I get on stage, get water and carbohydrates through my muscle, and then, you know, I'm on stage and I'm popping.
Oh, wow.
The thing is, when you say dehydrate, I just don't think if you have really super duper low body fat, you're not gonna hold water. You're just not. I just don't think you will. Now, being ripped for fighting is one thing. There's guys that look like $1 million. I mean, ripped like, you know, your George St. Pierre, somebody's got, I mean, Taryn Woodley's chiseled out of stone. But being lean as a fighter is different than being lean on stage. I mean, don't get me wrong, those guys are ripped. We go an extra mile.
Right. You know, that's the point. So it's a different type of dehydration, right? I mean, typically, from what I see, like a lot of these guys, they're trying to, like, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, like they're trying to, like, just get rid of as much water that they're possibly holding to create like better striations in their skin, like in their muscles.
And I'm going to touch on what like you're getting, because in the bodybuilding world, not so much my world of natural bodybuilding, because I've never heard of an athlete dying in his prime. There's been a lot of competitors in the, you know, IFBB and other feds die in their prime. Men and women from using diuretics, like you said, maybe to try to take it that extra mile. So.
But you don't see that so much in natural bodybuilding.
No. And, well, one, we can't take diuretics like that. They're illegal.
Okay, so even diuretics are illegal.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, you cannot take any diuretic whatsoever. You'll fail your drug test, and you will be banned for life.
Okay.
So, but, yeah, we don't deal with that. And we haven't had a bodybuilder in his prime die of a health-related issue.
Well, the whole idea is just to do it as healthy as possible, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And, you know, what's inspiring about natural bodybuilding, like a guy my age still – top of his game, you know. 50, 60-year-olds still do natural bodybuilding. Yeah. They don't have to put all that stuff in their body for decades at a time to compete, so they can still go.
Now, do they allow like prescribed TRT in natural bodybuilding?
No. Most federations at this point don't.
Not even in like the Masters division?
No.
Okay.
No. And
that's interesting.
And I'll say that's
you just think from the health and vitality of maybe like a 50-year-old competitor, maybe. Well, are there 50-year-old competitors?
Oh, there's a lot of 50-year-old competitors. So, I mean, absolutely.
I would think just for the vitality of a 50-year-old competitor in life, they would do that.
Well, here's the deal. I completely agree, and maybe if it comes to the point to where the sport's hard on your health or your testosterone's so low, you need to do that. And maybe you just shouldn't compete at that point. Yeah. You know, I mean, if it's a real slippery slope for the sole fact it would be real hard to control someone's testosterone levels with that and to pass our test.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because let's say you're 55 years old and you do TRT, your testosterone levels up to 1,200, the max or whatever. We have a 6-to-1 ratio. Let's say you top out at the 6-to-1 ratio, and you go up against a 30-year-old who's probably only maybe at 2 or 3 to 1. Nobody ever going over 2 or 3 to 1 is pretty uncommon. So let's say now the 50-something-year-old's got an advantage with twice as much testosterone in his body as a 30-year-old. It's just a big gray area.
What ratio are you referring? Like the ratio between testosterone and estrogen?
No, the ratio between testosterone and epitestosterone. That's how they measure. That's how they usually catch dirty athletes in like WADA and any sport. It's like, okay, let's test his testosterone, see if it's high amongst the other substances. Mm-hmm. So they do that, and it's like, okay, this guy, I think it's usually 4 or 6 to 1. So it's like, okay, this guy's, let's say 14 to 1. That's not uncommon for someone who takes PEDs. They're like, okay, this guy's clearly dirty. Okay. And then they can run various tests and through all kinds of lab equipment and stuff to find out the exact substance and track it down.
Okay.
But their first red flag is your testosterone count usually.
Oh, okay. Okay. I wonder what the limits are for some of the Masters competitors because
I mean, it's in my federation. It's all 6-1.
well, because I'm just as
Right.
just naturally as you get older, your testosterone levels drop, right?
Yeah.
So a 50-year-old man's testosterone levels, I mean, most likely is going to be well below what the normal range is for a male.
Yeah. I mean,
Just
there's
from nature.
Yeah, and there's ways to increase it, but you're right. I mean, nature's nature.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. That's what I would think. Like, outside of bodybuilding,
Sure.
I would personally, I know I will. Once I get to a
Right.
certain age,
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be taking testosterone just for vitality.
Sure.
Like, you know what I'm saying? It's a very like vital
Oh,
hormone
yeah. Oh, for sure.
for just life,
Yeah.
especially for men, right? So it naturally decreases over time. So in my mind, it's like, well, why wouldn't you just naturally kind of like or not naturally do your best to keep it at its optimal level, right?
No, I mean, I agree. If it ever comes to the point to where my health's on the line, of course I just
Right.
won't compete anymore.
So I
You know,
see I see the
yeah.
conflict there, but I was
Yeah.
just like, man, if I'm a 50-year-old man, it's like I'm probably going to do that just for my health. But if I also want to compete, you would hope that they could also compete because it's not really. I wouldn't think it's giving them this astronomical unfair advantage that maybe like
Heck no,
like a
dude.
20, you know what I'm saying? like a 20-year-old would
Yeah,
get.
yeah. Oh, I get. Being 43 and be 44 soon. This is harder for me to do than I was in my mid 20s.
Oh, 100%.
I
bro.
could be, not that I was like some huge party. Everybody could be out all night drinking with the boys, eating some White Castle, wake up on 2 hours of sleep, boom, still wake up
Yeah.
looking good and have a good workout. I can't do
It
that
doesn't-
anymore.
Yeah, I'll be 34 in less than a
Right.
month, and it's it's the same deal. Like I don't know if it's just like right around that early
Right.
30s range, just all of a sudden,
You feel something.
dude, recovery is a little bit slower. I put on,
Oh, yeah.
I got like 10 pounds thicker. Like it's solid weight, but like for whatever reason, I got about like 10 pounds
Yeah.
thicker, and it's just harder. Like I can't really lose it. I'm just more solid. It's just weird.
Yeah, you get your body thickens up as you get older.
Recovery
Man.
slows down,
Yeah,
but
and
you get that strength.
I'll tell you what. My last year, training jiu-jitsu, I was at full time, doing it all the time, competing. Going full blown rolling sessions. I noticed I was 40 years old, getting ready to be 41. I was quite a bit older than most of the people rolling. I mean, there's guys my age who do it. We know them; they're really good at it. But I was like, man, these kids, man. I'm in class on Monday. I don't feel good till Thursday. I mean, they're going at it. They're fresh, and
Yeah. No, the recovery is something else. Like it's so vital.
Right, and I trained at the Head Nod HQ, and those guys are killers out there.
Yeah.
They're ready to go. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where you want to go if you want to. It's a really good school. I mean, that's a good place to go to if you want to win tournaments and learn jiu-jitsu.
Josh is a great instructor.
Josh is a great instructor.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean,
Does Steve teach much out there, or is Josh? Because I know Steve does like personal training and
yeah,
fitness and
yeah.
stuff
Steve
like
does, especially when I was going. He would teach class. Josh was the main guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a classroom full of guys who can go.
Yeah, I've been meaning to stop out there. I know.
Yeah.
I've been telling Josh forever I'm gonna come out there. I think like typically on Sundays they have like open mat at 10:30.
Yeah, they still have that. And
Yeah.
honestly, my competition days and that, I'm gonna be honest, they're done.
You can only do one thing at a time, really. Whenever you're
Well,
really competing.
I try to do both, and I wasn't really. It hurt both of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of half in, half out.
It's like, what are you gonna do? It's like, yeah,
Right.
you're just kind of putting yourself in a situation where you're gonna get injured, and then you can't do anything.
Right, and I had a major injury. That disc replacement was a big ordeal. Like I couldn't pick 40 pounds up with the left side of my body.
Shit, dude. You said that was from jiu-jitsu?
I'm just gonna say it's a combination of everything
Yeah.
because I really wasn't even in pain when it happened. I just kind of noticed I lost my strength when I went to work out,
Yeah.
and I couldn't pick up a 40-pound dumbbell, and I'm like, something's not right.
Yeah.
So I think this is a combination of everything I've done over the years. It's
Yeah.
not just jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
What's
your diet like, man?
Like on a regular basis?
Yeah.
Right now, this is bulking season.
Okay.
I'm about 4,000 calories a day strong.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
What are you eating? What's that consist of?
Usually, about 500 grams of carbohydrates. Trying to get my body used to eat more dough, so when I do get back on
Yeah.
stage again, when I do compete again, I don't have to go so low carb.
Yeah, so you're measuring out all your meals.
I got, what, I've been doing it long enough in the off season. I can eyeball it.
You got
good.
eyeball it probably.
Yeah.
Now, right? Yeah. You use that scale enough. You're like, all right, I know what 6 ounces
Well,
chicken looks like.
Oh, yeah, no, it's always more than 6. But, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Protein-wise, I do about 250.
Okay.
And then fat-wise, I don't see a big reason to have a whole lot of fat in my diet. It's usually about 50 or 60 grams. And then,
Okay, so you're heavy on the carbs and
yeah,
protein.
heavy on the carbs and protein. And then, the thing is, on the weekends, sometimes I'll go eat, a meal off the beaten path.
Okay.
But I keep my carb sources. They're not, show prep because I want to have a little fun. I'll eat some healthier cereals, maybe some gluten-free popcorn sometimes. I do the red potatoes, the sweet potatoes, and the oatmeal still, but I'll go off and do some better tasting carb sources just to break up the monotony.
Okay, so a lot of potatoes, rice. You a rice guy?
Yeah, yes I do.
You eat quinoa?
I've eaten it before, yes.
Okay, but
I get what's in my local grocery store.
Okay.
So, quinoa, sometimes they have it, sometimes they don't. I go to the Walmart grocer by my house. So.
Okay. But you're mostly doing like potatoes and rice.
Yeah, and oats. Oats is a good one because you can make them taste good.
Great for breakfast, for sure.
Yes, sir.
What kind of protein sources are you mostly doing?
I'm just going to be completely honest. I'm not a big protein shake guy. I do them when I'm on the run. Fish, salmon, tuna. I might get mercury poisoning. I don't know. It's going to happen one of these years.
Fish oil is good for you, though.
Yeah, I do fish oil, too. I have really good fish oil supplement from Zinzino.
Okay, well, you're also getting it from all the fish you're eating.
Yeah. I mean, salmon. I either eat salmon every day, one serving of salmon,
Okay.
Tuna. I eat fish, some kind of fish every day.
Oh, wow.
I eat chicken about every day. Some kind of lean turkey almost every day, and I eat red meat maybe 4 or 5 times a week. Okay. And I egg something that's in my diet daily.
Man, it's hard to not have eggs. Like, I love eggs.
They're
much.
Cheap, healthy source of protein.
No, man, they're like, in my mind, it's nature's multivitamin. Like, what you're getting from that yolk is just unbelievable.
Absolutely.
The idea that people throw away the yolk is just like, why? What are you doing?
Okay, I'm that guy. I'm that guy when I prep. I'll throw away a couple yolks, but I eat a couple of them for healthy fats.
Yeah,
I'm dieting.
Yeah. No, I get. Some people have you have a reason for doing it.
Right.
Like you have this understanding of your body, and some people will do it just because maybe they do have a harder time digesting that fat. But I think a lot of people are just under the assumption that's healthier. There's still that whole adage that the yolk is not healthy. And when you do it for that reason, I'm like, what are you doing?
Don't get me wrong. You eat a dozen full eggs, you're in probably like 5 or 6 eggs with the yolks is not going to kill you. That's good for you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I have a very high-fat diet, so I tend to eat quite a bit of fat.
And you want to keep your body guessing. At some point, I'll have a higher fat diet, and I'll walk the carbs back a little.
Yeah.
I do that. I'll keep the protein about the same for muscle building. Maybe go up a little, maybe go down a little. But, I'm going to throw more fats in eventually.
I like a lot of fat. Do you monitor your sodium? You try to keep that low? Or
I try to, you know what? You need a good amount of sodium.
Yeah, I take a shit ton of sodium. I actually use these like elemental salt packs. You know what I'm talking. It's like sodium, potassium, and some magnesium.
I go for about 2,500 to 3,000 milligrams a day is what I shoot for.
Okay.
You don't want to go too much lower than that because sodium's essential for a lot of different health.
100%. Yeah. You'd be surprised how many people just don't understand that.
I mean, I hate to say it, but our government and we're educated so poorly on food. That food pyramid they got is pretty bad. The stuff they recommend to eat.
Yeah, it's always changing. Is it even a pyramid anymore? I think it's like a plate now, maybe.
I quit paying attention to them.
Yeah, me too. To be honest with you, man, I really quit taking. After spending, and I'm sure you do the same, right? After spending just so many years, like researching and diving into it, and like you have access to so many reliable sources through podcasts and books.
Yeah.
Like you don't really actually need to go get this degree to have of like an advanced education and nutrition and science and health, right? So after spending all this time researching, I have a hard time believing like a lot of the shit that comes out from certain sources. It's like, man, I don't know where you were getting your information to make this food pyramid, but it's bad science at best.
Well, and then I'm an elected official, not on a major scale like that, but I mean, you tend not to pay consequences when you make a bad move in government,
right?
Because there's certain places, certain parts of the country, certain senators, certain Congress people. I mean, they do an awful job, yet they're rewarded with wealth and power still.
Yeah, government's it's an interesting thing,
right?
It the machine of government today just seems so big. It's like, what do you do? I often feel that something like we're reaching this point to where it's so obvious of how fucked up it is, but it's so big and it's such a self-preserving machine. At least for me, I almost feel like, what can you do? I understand that it's important to do things on the local level, but when you're looking at the big picture, that big giant, it's like, what the hell can you do? How do you even get in that club and make a change?
Well, here's what I say, and I started local. Like I said, I don't have some huge political aspirations. I might not go any further than I'm at now as a precinct committeeman. I am nominated for a board position in my county now. We'll see how that goes. But what good people got to jump in the fight, because what I'm already sick of hearing is, someone will act a certain way, which coming from the private sector, like you would be fired. You got to be held accountable for your work, your opinion, your feelings don't matter.
Yeah.
You don't like this person, you don't like that person, so you're not going to vote on this policy. If I went to work and did that, I'd be sent home without pay.
Yeah.
Like, you have to do your job. I don't care. You don't like this guy, or you guys like a different football team, whatever your personal issue is. We need this stuff done. We need production out the door.
Right.
It's just in politics. It's not that. It's not about merit.
Yeah.
And I've gathered that from talking to some people when I talk to them about a policy or why this person's qualified for the job. I'm like, well, they do what their voters want. They're kind of in touch with the voters. It just goes over their head.
There aren't actually any like prerequisite qualifications to be in like a elected office.
Well,
right?
here's what I think is what should be whenever you discuss this with people. You got to do what your voters tell you to do. You got to put forth policies that better the lives of the people, because we're all public employees.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know people are scared of politicians. They think the politicians are the boss when it's the complete other way around.
Right.
But you need to keep the people in your district happy. You need to make moves politically that they agree with.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it doesn't matter how many degrees you have. You got to run your area good no matter what your job is. Like, let's say you're a congressman or in a real failing district. You're like, why is your district horrible? What are you doing to make it better? You have access to a lot of resources, the media. Why are you living why are you representing such a broken area?
Yeah.
Or, something like that.
It almost seems that a lot of politicians are just operating under like the pretense that nothing can really happen to them.
They are, and I have relatives that, because I am Italian, I have relatives that just never moved over here from Italy. I'm only 2 generations on my dad's side. I talk to them through Facebook. It's not like I call them on the phone. Obviously, that's a lot harder to do. But they're like, all American politicians make too much money. And I didn't really think of that because I was benign to it, because I've lived here so long, I just thought politicians everywhere were filthy rich.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, our politicians aren't nearly as wealthy as the politicians in America. And I looked at what some of these politicians are worth. I'm like, oh, wow, tens of millions. And
dude, yeah.
Wow. Well, how'd you get that on a public salary? You shouldn't be one of the richest people in our society being a public servant. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's its own separate class at this point. It's the political class.
It's like you said, it's political class, the ruling class. But I just think good people need to go into politics. They don't need to be scared to. Like, someone like you should probably run for office. You're going to get in there. You're going to do the right thing. You're going to make a good call. Even if I don't agree with that, I think, Adam's making the right call, what he thinks best for his community.
You would hope so, but
I just think you would. I just think a lot of people are scared, because I know good people in my community. I'm like, hey, you talked me into doing something, running for this board seat, do that. Why don't you help me?
Yeah.
I need people like you. I don't need people who want to get their friends and their family jobs and who want to snake people.
I often wonder why the process has to be so complicated to change things that seem so obviously wrong.
I guess because, man, that's hard to say. That's a question I can't answer. I don't smart know. Enough.
We don't necessarily have to have the answer, but it just seems so crazy.
Well, I think because, like we talked about earlier, there's money on the line. Like, obviously, things have changed since the Constitution was written, but Thomas Jefferson was not a full-time politician.
No, nobody should be a full-time politician. It's supposed to be public service, right?
I mean, Washington, D.C. was a tiny little town on a swamp.
Yeah.
Now it is one of the I don't want to tell you some wrong information, but someone can look this up who's got a phone by him. I think the counties surrounding Washington, D.C. are the wealthiest part of the country. And that's amazing, because Washington, D.C., the city's not. And there's not heavy industry around there. There's not people inventing stuff to make our lives better. Yeah. There's just politicians and lobbyists living there. So I'm like, wow, that's the richest part of our counties in the country. That's not what Washington, D.C. was, it's not the original purpose of it.
Yeah, I want let's see what they got here. 15 richest counties in the U.S. What is this from?
Very interesting.
It's from 2020. This is an article from USA News. Do they just have a list here? 50, 19. Oh, it's one of these I gotta go through a fucking slideshow. Why do they do that?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
See, this is the good use of technology.
New
We're not
Jersey,
looking at
California, New Jersey. Yeah, it's really convenient. New York, Virginia. So Fairfax City, Virginia. That's got to be in the region, right?
Yeah, that's in the region. Sure.
So that's number 10. The median household income is $116,000, almost $117,000.
Double the national average. Wow.
That's Colorado. So Arlington County, Virginia. I'm sure that's
that's in that. Yeah.
Separated from Washington D.C. by this Potomac River. So that's in the area, right? So 120,000 is the median. That's Howard County, Maryland, right?
Oh wow! See, we're getting there.
See, that's because what do they call that? Like the DMV, like D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, like little triangle there.
Not the DMV we're used to.
No,
sure.
Not that one. Where else?
So that's 3 to top 10 so far.
So that's New Mexico, California. California's gonna have a lot.
Because they got some sick rich people and some sick poverty out there.
Cost of living. So Fairfax County, Virginia, again at number 3.
Wow, Fairfax, Virginia is number 3.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's $124,831.
What is 1 and 2? Is the
number
big question.
2 is Falls Church City, Virginia.
Holy mackerel! I didn't think there's that many in the top that were in that area. Well, I knew the couple were.
It says Falls Church was. It says separated from Fairfax County in 1984.
Wow.
So that was all one, and they're probably like, "You fucking peasants, you're too poor for us. We're our own thing now." And then number 1 is Loudoun. It looks like Loudoun County, Virginia.
Okay, so wow, what's that like? Half the top 10 are in that area.
Yeah, I mean, shit,
it's crazy.
Quite a bit, yeah. So we got number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the area. 5 of them in Virginia, 1 in Maryland.
Wow.
Yeah, and then California has 1, 2.
Well, California is explainable through, like, I'm assuming that's people in the tech industry that make sick money.
Well, between the tech industry and then just the entertainment industry. And and then it looks like there's like one in California or Colorado, and then there's like New Jersey and New York, which makes sense.
Sure.
But all the ones in New Jersey and New York, those are like, that's 15 through 11. And then there's one in California.
They got the real money.
New Mexico. I wonder who's rich out here in New Mexico. Los Alamos County. That's probably near Albuquerque somewhere.
We get time. We need to look that up. Put somebody on, like, is there any heavy industry in Virginia and D.C. that maybe we're not seeing? Is there something going on?
Government, bro. That's the industry.
If that's indeed the case, that's a problem, because that's not an industry. That's not a wealth creating industry. It's a wealth taking industry.
Yeah, man. It's just so crazy. Just that whole sector.
Yeah, and I will say our media does a good job of dividing us. Just looking at like COVID is a political issue now, which is crazy.
It's insane. What in the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I mean, they did like a poll of Democrats to Republicans, like. Half of Democrats think that as soon as you get COVID, it's some crazy percentage of you actually going to the hospital, and the percentages are lower than I even thought. It's like,
who's answering these polls though?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't answer polls.
No. As active as I am in politics, I've only answered a few.
Exactly.
But it's just like we're so polarized. Like sometimes, like the far right's like they don't want any vaccines. They think COVID's a hoax. It's obviously not a hoax.
It's a real thing.
It's putting a lot of people in cemeteries, but it's not. It's not Stephen King's The Stand, where we're going to go outside and die. It's just we need to meet in the middle. And I am seeing some sober people on both sides. I'll be like, look, if this ever happens again, we can't shut our society down and write $6 trillion of checks that are no good like we're doing now.
Yeah, that and it's just the blatant like ignoring of things.
Yeah, sure.
Like just different facts that would arise. Well, in the beginning, right, the whole idea that it was a lab leak. Like that, you were crazy if you said that, and then now it's pretty accepted that it most likely came from this level 4 Wuhan lab, right?
Right.
Which
makes sense, right?
Right, which seems to be funded, right, for gain of function research, right?
Yeah, and I didn't even know what that was. All this was happening.
I didn't know what that was either. I had to look that up. So apparently, gain of function research is like where you're basically taking a known like. You're taking a known virus or something that you know is super infectious, and you're pairing it with something that you're not so sure about, right?
It's a terrible idea.
And then you're trying to you're just trying to see what the fuck you can create. It's like, what are we doing here, people? We're trying to make things more fucking dangerous, and for what?
Well, I heard the argument that like, well, in case that like COVID would get to humans, we want to know how to fight it. That's why we do it.
Just seems really.
And I'm like, if you do something like that, you better have high security so nothing like that happens. And I don't know if you followed it from the get go. I did, because it was the most interesting story of my lifetime by far. It makes 9/11 look like a grain of sand on the beach the way COVID changed the world.
Shut the whole world.
I don't mean to discount 9/11, by the way, people. Don't get mad at me. Just the way COVID changed our society and the whole world, it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get.
100%.
9/11's easily the second biggest event of my lifetime. But it's just, when they started this thing, they showed a bat and a bowl of soup. The bat looked like it was the size of a medium-sized dog.
Yeah.
I'm like, is that how people eat bat soup in China? So I just thought that was hokey, and I just didn't think that someone ate bat soup on the Wuhan province.
These
then it goes all
markets.
lower world to Alaska in like a week or something. That did not make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're pulling people's out of morgues that had COVID in them like 6 months prior than they actually said COVID was a thing. So did it get leaked out of the lab? I mean, I don't think that's debatable right now. I would say it did purposely. I don't think we can prove that.
Yeah, we can't prove that, I don't believe.
But, I mean, I'll tell you what, China got really lucky because they got really strong after COVID. Everybody else got really weak, especially people in the Western world.
You know, it almost seems like China, for a communist country, is using capitalism very well to position themselves.
Yeah, they got an interesting take on communism. Like, I think it starts as culture. Like, you know, the Chinese and the leaders, they read The Art of War. They're like slow takeovers. We'll do it through different things besides direct war, just like Sun Tzu did. We're like, when we went heads up with the Russians, that is a brutal, hands-on, violent kind of, just the way that Russian society was, you know. Ivan the Terrible threw out the Mongols by force. They do things by force. They went into countries by force with tanks. So they were going to beat us in the Cold War by force. All over the world in these proxy wars we had when we were kids, and eventually we were going to go toe-to-toe with Russia. You're old enough to remember those days, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole area of his, like, Russia was the fucking, I think it was probably like, maybe like, because you're 10 years older than me, right?
Yeah, sir. Probably, Rocky IV, I mean.
Yeah, so it's like, I think I was like a real little kid, like catching all of that, like on the tail end of it.
Yeah, well, I just remember being a kid, like we thought we were going to go to war with Russia all the time. Like,
yeah, that was a real big thing. Yeah,
you know, all these,
Red Dawn.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to go toe-to-toe, and now with China, like, they manipulated our culture and our money a lot quicker and more effectively than Russia did. Because you could not make a movie now, Red Dawn style, where we fight China. They had to remake a Red Dawn. They fought, like, North Korea and Russia. I mean, North Korea and Russia aren't going to come over here. China's capable of it, though, with the military and the people they have.
They have a lot of people.
Right, and
they have
it's
a lot of
just
people.
like,
I mean, Russia's still a power, though, too. I mean, they're still doing shit.
Oh, yeah, they're power. They wreak havoc. You know, but, like, China's got, I think, 10 times the population of Russia.
Yeah.
Russia's a small country as far as population goes.
China has a lot of people.
And considering, and like China they're like, we're going to beat America and the West in a different way. They're not going to go do a direct war with us. They're going to get more money than us.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not sure we'd be hard pressed to beat them in a war because they make so much of our stuff. Like, well, you're not getting medicine now. You're not getting raw materials to build your weaponry. So it's like, man, and now we've canceled a lot of our fuel supply in this country as of late.
So guess who do we
get that? Guess who we get our oil now from? A lot. Russia. So it's just like, we get in a war with these people. It's sort of like, we're going to cut you off.
Yeah.
So it's a different kind of a tactic on taking us. They're not going to do it by brute force. It's going to be other ways.
Yeah. It's like they're using... It seems to me that they're using, like, our game, which is capitalism, against us.
Yeah, they're using our game of capitalism and
we owe them a
influence.
substantial amount.
And you know what China
money.
also doesn't do? They don't go butt in with other people's affairs. They might take out Taiwan and, like, Hong Kong, small areas around them. They're not all over the world getting in stuff like we've been over the last 20 years. We're in wars of people push wars where they can't even find these places on the map. I hear these politicians say we got to go to war in Syria. We got to help Ukraine fight Russia now. We got to go here because of this. I'm like, why don't we take care of our own backyard?
Well, we've been in war longer than we haven't been.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, especially over the last 20 years, we're always in the mix.
And I think like over just I'm pretty sure over just the history of the country.
If we research it, I think you got a point.
I think so. Maybe. But either way.
I mean, it depends what you call a war. Like, technically, we haven't declared war since World War II. Korea was a conflict. I mean, maybe it was a war. Vietnam, I don't think, was technically a war. I mean, Iraq, you know, they don't call them technically wars. But, I mean, we've always had a military conflict. How about that?
Yeah.
I mean, we're always in the mix, man. Let's cut back. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, the military-industrial complex, I think, is a very real thing, and it seems to be something that...
I didn't until recently. I thought that was a lot of mumbo-jumbo, and then I saw various presidents try to get out of war. Like, I'll tell you what, Obama was for that at first. They squeezed him, and then he became a little more pro-war.
Yeah.
Trump was anti-war up until the end, you know?
Was it Johnson, or was it Eisenhower who warned of the military-industrial complex?
And that's a man who's at the helm of the worst war in human history. He knows and that's the big problem now is we haven't been exposed to like a bad war in generations.
Yeah.
Like Vietnam was pretty bad. There's about 60,000 American casualties, but the Iraq War, it was horrible. One
Yeah.
casualty is too much. But I think there's about 4 or 5,000. I mean, World War II, we lost about 500,000 of our boys. I think like 400,000, millions more wounded.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a war with a lot of casualties. We have not been exposed to something like that in a while.
Yeah, man. I really wish we would do a better job taking care of all the soldiers when they get
Yeah,
back.
I mean, we send. That's what I'm saying. We're overseas. We're protecting this person's country and border and helping their people out. But we got veterans with PTSD real bad. We're not helping out, and it's out of control. Like one's too many, and we got thousands.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking here. This is just Wikipedia.
Sure.
It's not. It's saying that currently there are 93 wars. There's giving me a list of 93 different wars. And this is
Yeah, you're right. That's
Three-
only been around 250 years. So, yeah.
It says 3 of which are currently going on.
Wow. Let's get
We're
out of the
ongoing.
mix a little bit, man. Let's
Just
take 5. Let's have an
yeah.
off season,
This starts. Yeah, this starts with the Revolutionary War.
which was I think necessary by most people's standards.
I would agree. Yeah, and then it just keeps going. Cherokee American Wars, Northeast Indian War, Quasi War. Yeah, man, we just like to fucking fight. I think it's just human nature, man.
Yeah.
It's just a part of it.
Because I'm going to simplify this for people. As soon as people had resources, until recently, and even now it still happens worldwide, people just try to take other people's stuff and their resources.
Yeah.
It's just that simple.
Yeah, so you have
Right.
you have to take care of your country. It seems that in China and Russia and a lot of other places around the world, it's acceptable and known, and it's cool to have like nationalism. But
Yeah.
it's almost like not cool to have nationalism in America.
Well, it was when we were kids. I know it was even, there's 10 years between us, but even when you were a kid, I mean, it was real cool to be nationalistic. Now it's like half the country's real nationalistic, and then half the country's not. Maybe that's too many on the not part, but a good chunk of the country. Well, people in power don't think it's cool to be pro-American.
Yeah.
I think people in power don't like the country is what scares me. If you look at the people shitting on the country on a regular basis, it's the richest, most powerful people in society. Guys working in factories and stuff, yeah, America, but you see a journalist 7 figures a year, works 2 hours a day to run their mouth. They hate it here.
Yeah. Just have a
So
different,
you're like, whoa, okay.
totally different view of it all, right?
Yeah, or like a movie star who makes movies
Yeah.
hates it.
I know for me, I've gone through my own kind of internal struggles
Sure.
with my own nationalism and because when you're young, like I feel like when you're like in your early teens
Yeah.
and 20s, you're really trying to figure out your place in the
Oh,
world,
absolutely.
and you tend to have more of a bleeding heart, and you just kind of feel like, man, you tend to look at a lot of the injustices of the world, like, man, that's fucked up, this is fucked up, and,
Oh my God, yeah.
and dude, and as like just being a black guy in America, like there's a perspective that I have
Sure.
of just different things, and I look at just a lot of the structures in place that
Right.
we're talking about, and I can remember thinking at a time, it's like, man, like this is a good place, and maybe just as a young person with not a lot of exposure
Right.
to the world and just different experiences, I can just remember thinking like, man, like America's pretty cool, but part of me is like, man, I can almost see myself
There's
just,
got a troubled history there.
just
So
like-
there's more problems now than there should be as easy as we have it. Yeah, I mean,
well, sometimes I'm just like,
humanity's got a troubled history though too.
for sure,
Right.
no place is perfect, but at the time I was thinking,
Sure.
this place is great, but
Yeah.
like, is it really as great as we all think it is, or do we just think it's great just because
Yeah.
this is all I've ever known? I've been here, so there's a part of me is like, man, there's a part of me just wants to like just dip out of America, and
Sure.
and I was like, man, I'll even just get rid of my citizenship and just
Wow,
go
that's
somewhere else. This was
Yeah.
probably like my early 20s.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just kind of walking you through like just my own
Right.
journey with this, and it was just like,
Sure.
all right, man, I kind of had that internal struggle,
Right.
but it was just a thought. It was never really like a desire, like not really wanting to be here. It was just kind of this idea of, man, there's so much just injustice and just things that are fucked up,
Oh yeah.
and just the idea that this is the best. It's like, it was in my mind, it was just like, where's the hubris in saying like there aren't also other good places?
Oh, there's other
because
good
there are
places for
other
sure.
good places for sure. So like at the time I was like, man, this place isn't all it's all cracked up
Right.
to be. But now I get older, man, and I get a little bit more perspective and things. I'm like, no place is perfect. There are good places in the world too, and maybe this place is the best, maybe it isn't. I think in a lot of ways it is. I think there's a lot of ways that we could be better.
Sure.
Like, we're not really trying to have like the most winners in the world, it seems
Right.
like. And but there's a lot of places that suck too. So it's just like,
more that suck than don't by far.
Right, you know what I mean? Like, man, we have a lot of freedoms here. We have a lot of good things. So I've grown this appreciation.
Sure.
And it's like, man, like America's not that bad. It's actually pretty cool. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, here's what I always tell people: like, well, we have this problem, we have that problem, we did this in our history. I'm like, yeah, well, that's pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what do you measure in America against some like impossible ideal that no place has ever fulfilled?
Mm-hmm.
I just say take a look at our country, compare it worldwide. We take more people in from different countries than any place on the planet by far. It's not even close. And we have the least homogenous population in the world, and I think that's why we're the best country in the world. We get the best minds from, hey, India. Hey, we get the best minds from Africa. Hey, Chinese people want to come over here too. Bring it. We got the best of the best over here. That's why.
It's such a young country too, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
all things considered.
This whole experiment of freedom and democracy that we have here in America, like this was the first thing in the world like this, right? I mean, it's typically dictatorships. I think it's always interesting how, at least in this kind of where we live in today's history, it's the evil empire has always been like the British Empire, because like
they were bad,
Because I mean, that's kind of like the most recent, like who was like kicking ass in the world.
Well, I guess that or the Ottoman Empire.
But before them, like I said, the Ottomans, the Persians, the Mongols, like
the Romans.
Well,
Greeks.
I guess are the Persians and the Ottomans the same thing?
The Persians,
those are different empires, right?
Way before.
Those are different empires.
Some of the countries of the Persian Empire were also in the Ottoman Empire,
but those are different empires. Okay, right. So my point is, all these different empires, all different parts of the world, different races.
Sure.
Like it's just a human thing to to take shit and to conquer the world.
And the Romans and Greeks were kind of a democracy, kind of nicer, but the
Romans and
they
Greeks
still were
too.
conquerors. They were not the most polite people when they overran your country.
Yeah, 100%, man. And so it's this thing that is just a part of humans.
And we've evolved a lot as humans. Like I said, there's always conflict. There's less now than there was before.
Yeah,
I think people need to sit back and chill and just be like, man, think of the easy access we have to food, water. Sewer systems. The world we live in now, my grandparents and your great-grandparents were like, man, this is an unbelievable world that these kids live in now. It's probably the heaven they envisioned, So it's how much our life's improved now, and people are like, these are such hard times. Things are so bad. I'm like, because we're making bad choices.
Yeah.
If we would choose just to sit back and enjoy what we have and try to I think most people do get along with their neighbors. I think they might tune into the media and just get really fired up, and I've been guilty of that too sometimes.
Yeah.
I've had arguments with friends, and I apologize. So I'm like, man, I was a dick to you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
I just got fired up.
Yeah, constantly staring in these phones. Right. I mean, it hijacks your reward system. It kind of gives you this false sense of reality, and that you feel like you're connected to people, and you kind of are because you're interacting with people. But
you're missing the right way.
But you're missing so much in-person feedback. Sure. You're missing that energy transference, and that's when people get really crazy and start talking crazy online. I feel.
I'm glad you said that, because one of the good things that came out of my neck surgery is you can only look at your phone so much before you're bored, and the only kind of exercise I could do is walking. Mm-hmm. So I asked the doctor, like, can I walk 10 miles a day, or is that excessive? He goes, that's fine.
Yeah.
He goes, that might be where you want to stop, though. So all I did is walk around my community and talk to people. I'm like, it is really cool to talk to people again. This is like being a little kid. Everybody in the neighborhood knew me because I was running around being a kid, wreaking havoc, running through their yard, getting yelled at by them. They got to know my story. And I lived in the same neighborhood at that point for about 6 years, and I didn't know a lot of my neighbors.
Yeah.
People 3 houses down, like, do you know George so-and-so? Like, I don't. So I got to know a lot of people within that kind of a walking distance from me, and that's what made easing into local politics easy. Like, hey, we know this guy.
Yeah.
He's a cool guy. He should do this. We want a guy like that representing us.
Yeah.
I think people need to unplug sometimes. Use it for good. And, I listen to your podcast, in my car. I don't watch a lot of television. I'm not entertained by many shows. I grab a comic book show, or hey, The Mandalorian. I'm still a nerd at heart.
That's a great show. Dude.
Oh yeah. So, but I listen to a lot of podcasts, informational stuff. But I try to interact with my community. I will just get out and walk in my neighborhood. Hey, let's meet up and get some coffee.
Yeah.
It's just good to be around humans.
You'll be surprised who's watching. I do quite a bit walking through my neighborhood, and I've had many neighbors just like come out and just say hi just because they see me walking all the time.
Yeah, people want to talk to people. That phone's like a drug. I turned it off while we're talking. I just know not to look at it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not as a slave to tech like a lot of people. If you took that phone away from me, I'd have to go through some kind of rehab. I think anybody in society would. Can you imagine if we just lost our phones?
Yeah, well, I always feel better when I don't
Right.
have my phone. I actually left my phone in Vegas a couple years ago, but
Right.
yeah,
Oh, wow.
but yeah, well, I was fucking around. It was a long night. We just got off.
Yeah,
We
you're in
just left like
Vegas.
Fremont Street, and it was fortunate because my friend like dropped me off at my
Yeah.
Airbnb, and I left it in the back of his car. It was like it just pissed me off though, because like he dropped me off. I go inside the Airbnb. I'm about to go like get an Uber to the airport.
Sure.
It's like one of those nights. And I go try to pull up my phone for an Uber. I'm like, oh shit, like he's gone. I know where my phone
Right.
is, but
Yeah.
it's like I can't get him. I can't ask him to turn around. So I had to like walk to the airport at like 4 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
I know, bad decisions. I probably should have just got a taxi. It would have been smarter. But my point is, what the hell was my point? I had a point with that.
Oh, we're talking about phones and why it's good
Oh,
not to have them. Yeah.
yeah, my point is, I left my phone in Vegas, and they had to like mail it to me.
Sure.
And so I didn't have it, and it just felt so much better.
Oh, okay,
Like,
so you
not-
didn't plan on not having it.
I didn't plan on not having it. Yeah,
Gotcha.
so there,
Yeah.
I was like forced to go like a week without my
Right.
phone. I did that again too. I went to the Bahamas for a
Right.
vacation, and I fucked same thing. My friend dropped me off at the fucking airport, and I left my phone in his car. So now I'm in Florida with no, or yeah, I get to Florida. I was there for a few days, and then went to the Bahamas. So I'm like 7-8 days with no phone.
Oh, wow.
But dude,
To be honest with you, I've never done that since
it was
the
great.
invention of it. Wow.
It was so great. It's like once I got past like the first like 3 or 4
Yeah.
days, and I don't have the phone anymore. I didn't really have the need. I kind of like
Right.
broke that habit, and it felt really good to not be on
Wow.
it. But as soon as I got on that shit, it was just like, oh, I know this.
I'll tell
This
you
is
what,
great.
why don't you have a challenge on Facebook? Call some of your friends out. You could even do me. Who can go the longest without their phone and just be on the honor system on who fails? Get like a kitty. We all throw in like $20.
How do you do anything though if you do that?
Well, that's going to be interesting, isn't it? I
Yeah.
mean, there was a time in my life where I didn't have that. That hadn't been around much in my adult life, honestly.
Yeah, but it's
Right.
also completely changed the way in which we do business and interact in society.
Oh yeah, I mean it's I'd probably say I could be wrong. The iPhone's the most important invention of the last 50 years. You think?
Yeah. Just the phone in general. I don't know how I could possibly do this podcast without my phone. It'd be impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, I could probably do it from my computer maybe, but shit, I'm using that to record right now.
Yeah.
I use it to schedule people.
Yeah, you're right. It's
I don't-
tied into your business. You got to work.
I don't know if I could possibly even do this. I got a promo with it. See, that's the thing. I'm fucking tied to it. Like,
Well, hey, I'll
how
tell you
can I
what.
run a podcast?
Use it for business.
And then put it
things.
down.
And that's what I mean. It's helped like people like you start to make money and make a living without being a slave to a company. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
well, I just got fired from a job, and I was like, all right, well, this is just the path now.
Yeah, and you have that option. Like back in the day, you would have to be like, "Oh man, I gotta find another job. I probably won't like it." Yeah, and a guy like you thinks off the grid can make a living for himself. Now it's really nice, actually.
I tried that job. Yeah, I actually got
Right.
a couple of contracts and stuff. I was like, man, this stuff is just so miserable. It's
Yeah.
so miserable. You see people working in offices, and so many of them just aren't happy.
It's most of the population.
Man, I was
Right.
working. I got this contract. It's actually right around the corner here. It's a Pfizer location, actually.
Yeah, Pfizer. Well, you're getting paid now with the vaccine.
Well, I mean, this was probably this was
Sure.
4 years ago or whenever. But either way, the one lady who I was working under, the girl was like working herself to fucking death. Like
Yeah,
so,
for what?
like so much so, she needed to get a surgery, like a legitimate surgery, and she put it off to work because they were having like some sort of audit or some shit.
Never do that.
And it's like, what are you doing? Like, you have kids, you have a
Right.
husband, you need a surgery, and you're putting it off for work because guess what? If you died tomorrow because you for whatever missed this surgery, they're gonna fucking replace you.
Oh,
They're
start
gonna
that.
figure it
Yeah,
out.
I mean, it's a business.
They're gonna be
Yeah,
sad, but they're gonna figure it the fuck
Sure.
out. Like, what are you doing, people? Why would you risk
That's-
your own health?
And you know, I was that guy who worked a lot of overtime and made a lot of money that I didn't spend because I'm not a guy who spends a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm just like, why did I work so much? And like, I do work a lot of my job now, but I don't live there. You know, and if I make money outside of work, it's something that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
So it's not like work.
Dude, and I'm not
Right.
against like putting in the work, and
Right.
if you want to do that, like sometimes you got to put in long hours and do
Yeah.
that kind of thing. I think what gets me is whenever it comes at like the sacrifice of your health
and your
for
family.
this. Yeah, it's like you're putting a company above you, which if you're not alive or you're not
Right.
healthy, like what you can't do anything. You're no good to anybody.
Life's all about that sweet spot. You don't want to live just for work, but you do want to work and you want to be productive at work. You want to make a good
100%.
living, but you got to have something else. Someone who's married to their career and work, I just don't think that's fulfilling. I could be totally wrong.
Maybe for some people it is. It's just in my mind, as long as you're taking care of your health along the fucking way. If you want to be a madman and work 80 hours a week and try to build a company, or you're just fucking, you're trying to make you're trying to make partner at this firm. You're doing this thing. Okay, cool, man. Like, I understand. Do you if that makes you happy? Yeah. But dude, like, take care of your health along the way. Like, try to get some, eat well, drink water. Yeah, try to get some sleep. If you can, like at least work out. Like, you got to take care of the body because that affects the mind, which affects your whole perception of the world.
Yeah, well, we're talking about successful people waking up early and getting shit done. You ever listen to Patrick Bet-David?
Oh, I love that guy.
He's my go-to guy. He's my favorite podcaster.
He is so good. Oh, I would love to sit down with that guy.
Oh, my God. Yeah, he's reading his books and listening to his podcast daily, changing my life for the better.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of those guys who worked those hours and juggled his family life. He's just like another kind of 1 in a billion human. Like, he can do that from the ground level up, being an immigrant, not have any advantages in this country, really, but he just built himself up. He didn't do good in college, but he learned the business world, learned his craft, and look at him.
I really enjoyed his conversation with Rogan pretty recently.
Oh, yeah.
Just because whenever some of the conversations whenever I watch Rogan, it's not so much just for like the entertainment value of the conversation. Like, I'm kind of like studying.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you always want to study like something you want to do, right? So I'm like, Joe Rogan in my mind is one of the best conversationalists
I think
ever
he is
to
because
live.
he's not married to one side of the political spectrum. He'll talk about a lot of stuff with a lot of different kind of people.
Yeah, I like the way he'll entertain things, or he'll phrase things, or the way he'll drive a conversation, or it's like what his responses to things. So I just really enjoy that. So I kind of study that and I pick it out. But then watching him speak with Patrick was very interesting because Patrick has his own. Like, he has his own way in which he communicates. And it was just interesting because Patrick, he tried to drive that conversation a lot. He was like, Joe, let me ask you this, Joe.
Yeah, we got the two best in the business.
Let me ask you this, Joe. And then he goes through this whole thing. And he's like, so this is what I'm asking.
Sure.
So it's just to see the dichotomy of those two and the way in which they kind of like Joe doesn't. What I've noticed is he doesn't have a problem letting people try to take over the conversation and interview him. Like, it doesn't happen all the time, but when people do it, he'll allow it. He'll just like ask a question. Like, we're just talking. You want to ask me questions? Cool. Like, so it was just cool to kind of see that interaction. I really enjoyed. Like, they're both very good interviewers.
Oh, they're the two best podcasters in the game.
Yeah, they're great.
I mean, no doubt about that. And that was must-see TV right there, Rogan and Patrick.
Yeah.
I like how they showed each other respect, because in the back of their mind, they're both competitive guys. Patrick's like, okay, I want Joe's spot as the top dog, and Rogan's like, this guy's breathing down my neck right now, because he caught fire pretty quick, Pat. I shouldn't say that. It's been kind of a slow burn, but recently he's caught a lot of fire, because he just calls balls and strikes as he sees it. Mm-hmm. And that's what Rogan does. I don't think Rogan's married to one political or financial ideology. I just think he's like, hey, whatever. Because if you look at him, he's an enemy of the right for a while because of his lifestyle. Open with the pot, doesn't care what people's lifestyle is. He's an atheist. But now he's an enemy of the left for taking ivermectin and being like cautious on the COVID vaccine. So he's kind of getting it from both ends. So that tells me that he's thinking right.
Yeah, I mean, the extremes on either side. If you're just kind of a measured person who's just open to taking in feedback, you're not going to make either of those sides happy.
Right. People just got to go with a black and white, right is right, wrong is wrong sometimes. And when sometimes it's in the middle with COVID, or even like with this Rittenhouse kid, that shooting. I'll tell you, just from an outside perspective, I think most of our institutions in society failed. To start, there's some bad parenting involved. Why is a 17-year-old walking around there with a loaded weapon?
I think that's the first thing that people are ignoring.
Whoa. I mean, why is he doing? I mean, just like
you're a 17-year-old boy. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not a trained.
He didn't even look 17. He looked like he's 14. That's a kid.
What kind of mom is driving him to a chaotic event?
Well, from what I understood, his dad lives there, and his parents didn't know he was going to. If they know he was going to that's even more screwed up.
Okay.
I don't know that for sure, but if that was the case, that's even worse.
And again,
there's bad parenting there somewhere along the line.
I've been trying to wrap my mind around this whole case because I don't really have an opinion on it. I haven't really been closely following it in the peripherals. I've been checking it out.
Right.
I've been doing some research trying to figure out, like, it's hard to get the facts.
Right,
it's
because
like,
they got
it's
so
like,
skewed.
It's like, what's the facts? So it's like, I'm reading the Post, I'm reading fucking the Huffington Post, I'm reading, Fox, I'm trying to read 4 or 5 different sources. Like, this is the left, I know this is the left, this is the right, this is the right. Like, where's the middle? I'm trying to find just like what are the facts, and you always see the little details, the adjectives that are painting pictures along the way. It's hard to get the clear facts, but at the end of the day, I thought I heard that maybe his mom drove him there.
If
maybe I'm wrong on that.
I think there's bad parenting. I don't know that for sure. So
but
I'm
either
not
way,
really going to comment. Yeah, what is the kid doing there? But
I'm going to know if my 17-year-old son
is packing
is fucking out with
a dangerous rally. Because it's like 3
is out
days
with a rifle at a rally. I'm going to know that. At least I hope I would.
And then let's get to the point. That was the first failure. The second failure was the leadership of Kenosha allowed criminals to take their city over for 3 days. There was burning, looting. I think like 100 people got injured. People got crushed with bricks. Stores were burnt down.
Oh, wow.
That never should have happened in an American city like that. The authorities failed.
Yeah,
to protect. So, like, we had a lot of failures. And, honestly, those criminals that attacked him failed, too. There are 3 adults trying to beat a teenager to death. The first guy he shot, was a child rapist.
So
I mean, like, that guy shouldn't have been on the street. That's a failure of the prison system. Why is a guy who's raped multiple kids ages 12 to 15 like out on the street so easily? You know what I mean? Should he be doing time or getting some kind of mental rehabilitation to stop sexually assaulting children?
Yeah, so I've been trying to figure out like who are the people involved and like what happened with the situation. So the first guy, it seems from what I can gather, he was bipolar and he was homeless. And which was kind of interesting because I was seeing that they started a GoFundMe for him by his girlfriend. It's like,
dead guy?
Yeah, the guy who died.
Wow.
And I think they raised like $26,000 for this guy on a GoFundMe.
He's not seeing it.
Well, he's dead.
Right.
But if he's bipolar and homeless and he just got out of the hospital apparently after a suicide attempt that morning. So I mean that guy is pretty questionable, right? And I haven't seen his rap sheet from what I understand.
He's the one who's got convicted of child rape and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, from my understanding, it was a whole laundry list of just different infractions.
Sodomy, it's pretty disgusting.
Right. So it's like, okay, well that guy seems to be like a mentally ill person who could very potentially be dangerous. So, okay.
Right. And he is dangerous. He's done dangerous things in his life.
Exactly.
He's on video setting a dumpster on fire and pushing it in a police car with police in it.
Do we know when the last time he got arrested was?
No, I don't off the top of my head.
Okay. So, I don't even know where I can find that either. So, okay. So that guy, and whenever I see the video, that guy is clearly, he's like chasing after the Kyle guy, right? Like Kyle seems to be running away. Turns around real quick, fires some shots, right? Kills that guy. Now, apparently, so I don't know what happened leading up to that, right? So,
right.
What caused him to run away? Was there?
I think
did he discharge his firearm multiple times? Was it that, and then another instance prior?
All right, I finally got this down because I watched analysis of the case. One guy who got arrested for arson after they looked at the videos fired the first shot. And then the guy lit a dumpster on fire, and then Kyle put that out. Then he started to get chased. The guy that he shot, Rosenbaum.
So Kyle put out a fire.
He put out a fire.
Dumpster. Is there video of that?
Yes.
Okay.
So then that guy started chasing him. I think multiple people were chasing him. I mean, the situation didn't look like an American country. It looked like a war. There's buildings on fire, all kinds of people in the street, no authorities around.
Right, which brings us to our first point. He shouldn't have fucking been there.
He shouldn't have been there, but like the authorities should have stopped that, right?
Right.
I mean, that was the third day of it. It's not like they were caught flat-footed. They knew what was going to happen, and people had been hurt. And authorities are responsible to protect businesses and their public, right? Don't you think that's their first job as a politician's job to make sure his people are safe?
I would hope so.
The citizens of Kenosha were not safe.
Right.
So that's a huge failure. Well, and then
which citizens were not the ones who were out there?
I think anybody. I mean, just a large mob burning down buildings and beating the shit out of people in their path. I mean, is that safe?
As a whole, definitely not. That's not a safe environment.
And it happened for 3 days.
No, were they in a residential area, or this is a business district?
Yeah,
right?
business
so they're
district.
Not in a
protecting a gas station, which once again is ill-advised. Any man at that gas station should be like, "Kid, you're 17. Go home. We're adults. We got it."
What about the fact that these businesses should have insurance?
Well, here's my thing with that. They said that countrywide, only a fifth of insurance only covered a fifth of the damages.
Really?
And to me, that makes sense because insurance companies make billions of dollars a year. They're well-run businesses. Wouldn't you agree? You might question their ethics, a lot of people do, but they're not going to make a lot of money by giving away free money for like uncontrollable riots. They know riots are allowed to happen, so they make it hard for people to get payments. And I'm just so that's another that's another debate in all itself if insurance companies should cover it.
Yeah, that's a whole different. That's a whole different thing.
At the same time, too, they pay taxes. The politicians and leaders of cities shouldn't allow that kind of large scale destruction.
Right.
So it's just like
so
it's a lose-lose.
What's the breakdown that allowed that to happen? Are they
I don't know.
Are they defunding their police in that city as well? I think that whole idea of taking resources away is insane.
I'm not sure that Kenosha was doing that. I just think it was weak leadership.
Just
he
weak
didn't want the
leadership.
optics of putting a riot down because anytime there's violence between adults, it's law enforcement, it's anybody, it's not pretty. It would have looked bad if they'd have put that riot down on TV. Don't get me wrong. I think it was a necessity to stop that riot in some way, though.
So, okay. So as I'm wrapping my mind around this, we're unpacking this because I've been just trying to figure this the fuck out, man. Because I feel like so many people just want to jump to a conclusion and jump to a side and just like not even try to rationally parse out. Do you even have an understanding of what happened, or to your best knowledge, or are you just taking what's being fed to you and just jumping onto a conclusion?
I think they're just taking what's onto them because I didn't really follow the case at first. I took the media's perspective on it. I just thought because they said he's a crazed white supremacist who shot some African Americans, I thought that's what it was. I'm like, with videotape, surely they wouldn't lie. Then I saw the video. They were all white. I'm like, that guy's not black. That guy's not black. There's nobody black around.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are getting upset saying, I think I think the issue with when people are starting to bring in race, because I was trying to think about this. I was like, man, well, why are we bringing in race? Because it was all white people involved. And then you hear the argument.
Then the white people who were shot, I hate to say it, sucks they died, but they were the worst among us. They had bad rap sheets. The other guy got in jail for beating the shit out of his grandma.
So yeah, I want to keep keep talking about those guys here in just a second. But the idea of what the fuck was I saying? Not the bad guys. What was the point? You were saying something before I said that. What the fuck was I saying?
Oh, just about the authorities failing to stop the riots and how it got to that point. I just think it was weak leadership. They didn't want the bad optics of stopping a riot.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember my point, but yeah, no, those guys. I'm curious. Fuck, dude. What the hell?
And at that point, Adam, I mean, let's say you go to a social justice protest. You're peaceful. You have good intentions. Tens of thousands of people do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the third night of it, and the first two nights had a lot of people getting hurt and a lot of buildings getting set on fire, including they tried to set a police station and a courthouse on fire. Wouldn't you not go? I'm like, all right, man, this is not my protest. This is not my fight right now. I'll go out later when it's safe. Because honestly, if I wouldn't go protest the cause I believed in if there's that kind of violence around. I'm like, man, what about if it happens to me? I just don't want to be around that.
Yeah, I'd prefer not to put myself in a situation where some bad shit could happen.
Because bad shit does happen. You put yourself in that situation.
Yeah, and the thing is, man, when you're just a child, which he is, he's just a boy. I think it's kind of interesting how people. Oh, I know what my point is. I want to come back to it. I know a lot of people want. Like I made a lot of stupid fucking mistakes as a boy.
Oh man, yeah.
Things I thought I knew, and you just don't think things through. You think them through, but then you realize you really didn't have a complete perspective of it. And I think it's kind of fucked up how people want to try to treat this boy like a man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get in society at 18 you're a man and all that shit, but like he's still just a boy, and they're trying to like make fun of him for like crying and showing. Dude, I would be shit. I'd be so fucking scared. I'd be out there crying and doing that shit too.
Like the reporters and everything. Like if they were in a situation like that, they'd be crying. Believe me.
You would 100% be. So I think that was genuine. His fear. His fear is for sure scary. Like that had to be real.
I think he was naive too. I didn't think he'd have to shoot anybody.
Yeah, here's the thing. I think. Oh, I know. I want to get back to the race thing for a second. I think a lot of people, they like. I'm hearing the argument. Well, if he was black, like. Then this wouldn't have happened.
Based under what circumstance?
Well, they're talking about him getting off. So let's unpack this. So I think there's a couple of different things that's rooted in. I think people do that. I think people do that because there's so many examples of like just unjustness in the system where it's very blatant where people of color get different sentences than white people. See, here's where and you see that often. Dude.
Here's why I don't like the term people of color because every group's different.
Let's just say black people.
Okay, there you go.
Where black people, I prefer where you see black people getting harsher sentences on a regular basis over white people. So I think where the argument is not necessarily the parties involved, but if that were a black person being charged and being held accountable, then he probably wouldn't went to jail. And you've even seen that where
I think it's
where
more
it was the
than that,
5
though.
kids. It was like 5 younger kids
Sure.
in the was it the 90s, right, where they all went to jail
Well, that's a
for
long time
for
ago, another
raping,
situation,
for
you
like
know?
for supposedly raping a
Yeah,
girl,
out
right?
in New York.
So it's the whole thing of this like of how you view a child,
Sure,
right?
sure.
So there's that argument, and I understand that argument, but then I also think of this idea, well, okay, are you arguing if it was a black kid who shot white people, he would get in trouble?
Right.
Or are you arguing that if all the people involved were black, that he also would have gotten in trouble? Because maybe
Right.
in that sense, because there are instances where, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there was a very recent, pretty bad shooting in Chicago where like 2 people were dead,
Right.
1 person was injured, and it was a gang shooting in
Yeah.
South Chicago. Yet they just said it was just mutual combat.
Yeah, I thought that was fake news. I actually heard a prosecutor.
Yeah, right. And
Right,
nobody
so-
got charged or went to jail. So
Wild West, White Earp, OK Corral. Hey, mutual combat
right.
with a
So
firearm.
then,
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So in that example,
Right.
where it is all black people, nobody went to jail and got in trouble. So
Yeah.
that would kind of
Well, that's
disprove the idea. So it's just
yeah.
so I kind of get. It's like, man, I can understand both arguments there, and it's like you're not both wrong.
No.
But it's like, why? So, but then there's also like, well, why do we also have to bring this into the conversation?
Right.
But it just seems like that is just a centerpiece around so much in this country.
Because they choose to be. Like, you live in St. Louis. We have hardened criminals, and a lot of them are black, you know. Some are white, obviously. I don't know the demographics of who commits crimes or off the top of my head in St. Louis, but we have hardened criminals who do violent shit here and don't go to jail that are black.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I would say we have a lot of black, a lot of white, a lot of
a
Hispanic.
lot of black, a lot of white.
I wouldn't say it's a lot in
I didn't
some.
mean it. I didn't mean it that way. Like in St. Louis, what I'm saying is it depends on the area. You could be a white criminal. You could be a black criminal. If it's a city like St. Louis that doesn't punish criminals, you're going to be out.
Yeah.
I don't think race. I think it depends on where you are in the country. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think because of demographics and economics, you know, African Americans get harsher prison sentences. The stats show that.
Yeah, you see it
So, yeah.
oftentimes.
But a lot of it's regional though too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because like I said, if you're a criminal in some of these cities, it pays. Because those were a lot of. I think the majority of people in Kenosha, I think, were white. Honestly, doing the violent rioting.
Probably.
So they'll get off easy there. Like we had a riot in St. Louis where multiple police got shot. Those people got let out by our DA.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it depends on what part of the country you're in at this point. Like you do some stuff like that in like Miami, Texas, like people that don't tolerate that kind of law breaking, you're going to the slammer regardless of color.
Oh yeah.
But there still is a color barrier here that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that's like that's this whole, I guess, a whole other can of worms to like
Sure,
really be
sure.
unpacked right there. So
And I don't think people should confuse them though, because I mean this 3 violent career criminals attacking a teenager who granted shouldn't have been there, but that doesn't give them the right to beat him to death either.
yeah. So let's
So-
get back to those guys. So
yeah.
the one guy clearly has a whole rap sheet, right?
Sure.
The second guy who got killed, and again, I haven't looked at his whole thing, but from
Right.
my understanding, I saw that he choked. This is
Right.
just an article I read. It said that in 2012 he got in trouble for choking his brother. I don't know what that
Right,
means.
he's got a rap sheet. I'm not sure the exact crime.
And
I
then
think the third guy beat up his grandma recently and just got out of jail.
Maybe on the third guy, but let's
Right.
stick to the second guy. So the second
Sure.
guy who got killed, he also said that he got in trouble in 2018 for a domestic dispute.
Yeah.
Now, that was 3 years ago. How old was the guy who died? Do we know? The second guy? Was he in his
I
20s?
think he's somewhere in his 20s.
Somewhere in his 20s. So I kind of take that. I have a hard time painting that second guy as a career criminal. Like a domestic dispute could be fucking anything. That could just be some.
Right.
You could just get fucking loud. Like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say.
I don't know what that is, and that was like 3 years ago. So if you had an issue with a few, you like, okay, so I see those two things. I had to see his whole sheet. I don't know how many
Sure.
issues he had or what all he had. So I'm just trying to like not jump to any conclusions on anybody. So okay, so there's that. Now they are saying that that's the guy who had a skateboard, right?
Sure, he didn't have a skateboard. That's all.
And they're saying, I was reading that he was responding to shots fired. Is what
Sure.
some of the articles are they're trying to paint him as a guy who was just responding to an active shooter. Okay, so that asked me, okay, so is he responding to an active shooter? If he's responding to an active shooter, then that tells me that there has to have been shots fired prior to Kyle running.
Yeah, there
and turning.
was.
Okay, so there
Yeah.
was more. So those shots fired prior, was that Kyle or was that somebody else?
That's somebody else who got arrested for arson.
That's the other guy who got arrested for arson. So not
Arson.
so-
He never touched Kyle. He just fired a shot.
okay.
Right.
So then we're operating under the assumption that second guy was thinking that Kyle fired the shot, or is
Yeah.
that just the story that's being told? That's the story that's being painted, right?
Well, I think they said that guy.
Is that being
You talking about the people sticking up for the guy with the skateboard? Said, well, he's responding to an active shooter. Well,
right?
It's a right. There's all kinds of active shooters, riots, stealing, burning, and looting. But I mean, the active shooter at the time was defending himself from a violent attack. So it's like, man, yeah, he was an active shooter, but he's defending himself. So do you have the right to beat him?
Well, is he an active shooter?
Kyle? Kyle at that point, I think, had killed somebody. He killed Rosenbaum, I think, and that guy cracked him with a skateboard after that.
So in the video, this is what I'm trying to get my head around. So in the video, okay, that I saw, he's running away, right?
Yeah.
He turns around, he fires shots.
Right.
That's when he kills Rosenbaum.
Yes.
Does he also hit the second guy immediately after that?
It's fairly close. He gets knocked to the ground and hit with the skateboard by the guy. Then he kills the guy instantly. There was video of it,
and he kills the second
out
guy
before. They don't show now. It was graphic. He killed him instantly. You can see like his organs and stuff flying out the back of his body. He got him.
So he's so he kills that second. So is there a large gap in between the first and the second guy?
Not really.
Not a large gap, right?
Not a large gap at all.
So at that point, Kyle's an active shooter, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So did he shoot prior to that?
No, the first shot was the guy. The guy got arrested for arson, and
so technically Kyle was not an active shooter then at that point.
At the point he killed the skateboard guy, yeah, with Rosenbaum, no, he wasn't an active shooter.
Up until he killed those two guys, he was not an active shooter.
No, well, as soon as he killed Rosenbaum, technically he's an active shooter.
As soon as that happens, but what's the time between Rosenbaum and the skateboard guy?
It's not much. It's not much. You can watch the video. I think
it's in the video,
seconds.
Well, because that's the thing. That's my point. In the video, what I could tell is there were 3 men chasing him. Right. All at once. So that tells me if you're in the pursuit of chase, that's a response. So if you're already responding and he hasn't technically shot anybody yet,
right? They were going after him to beat his ass. He's already on him, before.
So that's what I'm trying to figure out. So it's like, okay, so why are you chasing him if he hasn't shot anybody yet?
Oh yeah, you're right. So they wanted to hurt him.
So technically, then he's not an active shooter. So that's why in my mind, all right, well that doesn't kind of make sense to say he's responding.
He was running away
shooter.
from him, and then he decided to defend himself when they caught up to him. Honestly, that's what happened.
So that just seems. So I just there's just so much that's just so unclear. Like, okay, I hear about the dumpster fire. He put out a dumpster fire,
but
like,
what got him getting chased.
What words were exchanged? What interaction actually happened there? Like, I tried to watch the video, but there's a whole bunch of people there. It's hard to see.
What cracks me up about this whole thing was the prosecutor didn't seem like he interviewed his own witnesses, because every witness that the prosecutor called won the defense's case for him. He called this one guy in who was by Rittenhouse at the gas station, and he goes, okay, did Mr. Rosenbaum threaten you? He goes, yeah. He said, I'm going to fucking kill you guys if I catch you alone tonight. He goes, was Kyle Rittenhouse there? He goes, yeah, he's right by me. So prior to that, Rosenbaum had threatened to kill him.
Okay.
And he was doing violent stuff.
And who testified to this?
Guy at the gas station with Kyle.
Yeah, he was a Marine, right?
He could have been.
Okay.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Because I didn't do a whole bunch of research on that guy. I think I saw something that said that, and then I take this with a grain of salt because I didn't look at a whole bunch of different sources, but I saw from the Huffington Post saying that guy said that he didn't ever feel like he was threatened in that situation. I don't know if that's true or not. And I don't know, and I think that's also relative because that's just one person's experience.
Right.
Felt.
They interviewed reporters who caught the footage, and they all backed up Rittenhouse's case too. And what surprised me was the prosecution called them, because like one reporter, I think he's from the Daily Wire, maybe it's another magazine or internet magazine. He's like, you guys tried to get me to change my story when I gave it to you. Like, no, he didn't. He's like, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
He goes, that's why I got a lawyer. And
the prosecutor just wants to win.
Well, it seemed, but he didn't call any witnesses that gave his case for him. Like the third guy that he shot, the guy who pointed a gun at him.
Right.
They're like, did you point a gun at Kyle Rittenhouse? He's like, yeah. He goes, what happened then? He goes, well, then he shot me. He goes, so Kyle didn't have the gun pointed at you before you shot him? He's like, no.
And from my understanding, he said he did that by accident.
Who, the guy? The guy who had the gun. The guy who had the gun had it illegally because he was a convicted felon and couldn't have it. And he crossed state lines with it. He hasn't been charged.
Well, he has a concealed carry that was expired, right?
Or he's a convicted felon, one too, but he shouldn't have had it. It was illegal.
I'm pretty sure he had a concealed carry that was expired. I didn't see. That's the thing. I didn't see anything about him being a convicted felon. But again, I didn't dig deep enough into him.
And I could be eating my words here. Backtrack it.
See, that's the thing.
Got a rap sheet.
See, that's the thing. When I read from Fox, they paint them as like career criminals, and then you read it from like the Huffington Post.
He's a saint.
They're painting them as people who are just trying to like, respond to a thing. So it's just like I take both of those with a grain of
Right,
salt.
right,
Like,
right.
so I'm like, who the fuck are these people really? And I'm trying to like dig into them.
Right.
I haven't done enough. I'm
Well,
sure I can pull up their records.
when
I
they
just haven't taken the time to do it all yet.
when they circle back to race, here's what I don't like about it. Here's how we should be circling back to race. Us living in the St. Louis area, we got probably the worst part of the country. The north side of St. Louis is bad. How come we're not doing anything to fix that? That's a mostly black area. You think Ladue would go that way?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's like, okay, we have this issue. This isn't like something we can put off for an election. We got to go help these people because they're getting killed. They have poor education. It just goes ignored. All these black communities around the country just go ignored. And I think both political parties have not grabbed this issue. This is an emergency. This is a national crisis.
Yeah, you would think that we would pour
Right.
more resources into try to bringing these impoverished communities up.
I just don't know what the solution is, but it seems like we just do nothing. We accept it.
Yeah.
Like what you said in Chicago, a prosecutor, just said, hey, it's mutual combat. These two guys are having a shootout in the neighborhood. I'm like,
It's not
what?
mutual combat. That's illegal. Like, what the fuck are you talking
Yeah,
about?
I mean, can we just settle scores like the Wild West now? I mean,
It seems so, man.
and the body counts are worse than the Wild West in these cities.
It's crazy.
So, I mean, I think that's what we need to talk about race. Why have we let this community, and they're primarily the black communities in these cities that just, we got to do something to help them.
Yeah.
Because now it was getting better for a while. Now it's getting worse again.
What's fascinating to me as
Right.
I'm getting older and I'm kind of seeing things. These areas are heavy Democrat areas.
It is, and
almost
you know
always.
what? They are. And I'll tell you
see
what.
these blue spots, and they don't really help a lot of the community.
And here's what I think it is. You look at some red spots; they're bad. They're a solid red, no competition. I think competition breeds success. Democrats don't have to work for votes in those areas, so they're not going to work.
Yeah, we need a blend, man. We need people.
Purple states are running the best. Like Texas and Florida can go either way, so politicians actually try to do work.
Yeah.
So that's if you get lazy, just like jiu-jitsu. Let's say if you go against everybody who sucks, are you going to get better?
No.
No, that's what politics is. Like the Democrats got these areas, they can be the worst living conditions almost on the planet in some cases and still win elections.
Yeah, well, they're just selling hope a lot of times, right? It's like these false promises.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just self-preservation at this point. Just hear, they say what
Right.
the constituents want to hear, and then they're like, oh, man, I'm working on it. But
Right.
everybody knows how complicated and, the whole system is. So
Right.
they just accept the fact that it takes forever, which forever comes never.
And if you want to make the argument, the only reason why that's allowed to happen is because they're black. I think that's a strong argument because I think if they started to pile up bodies in Ladue or Clayton like they do on the north side of St. Louis, I think we'd be having a different conversation about policing and
Yeah, well,
things like that. It would be stopped. You'd
Yeah.
see like Navy SEALs out there. And don't get me wrong, I don't want any violence at all to happen to anybody. It's just like what's acceptable violence in this country and what's not.
yeah.
You know what I
think
mean?
a lot of it just boils down to economics these days. I think on the
Yeah, it
on,
could
on,
be, yeah,
I think
you
on
could
the
be right.
I think on the surface, yeah, there's a lot of color there for
Sure.
sure. And you look at like redlining, and you look at all this
Oh, that happened years, and we're feeling the effects of it
all
Sure.
the time.
Yeah.
We're looking at all this shit, but at the end of the day, like we live in a very like economically driven world,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of the stress and a lot of the issues that people face on a daily basis, it's an economic struggle
Sure.
that is often confused as a racial struggle.
Well, we need to figure out why, because lots of these areas, like St. Louis public schools, you can look at how much they spend per student. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like double the amount of, like, say, where I live in Collinsville, Illinois, but they get people they'll have whole graduating classes where nobody can read or do math.
Yeah,
On a high school level, let
they're
alone
just
a senior
passing
level.
everybody through.
Well, we got to figure out what's wrong because it's not the money in that instance. The public schools are getting it. Where's it going? And how come it's not getting to the kids? Do we need charter schools? Do we need school choice where, okay, I'm not sending my kid to that school because it's a hole. I'm going to opt out so the tax dollars go to this school.
Yeah.
A lot of people say we should have school choice down. I'm to the point to where no matter what we do, no matter how much money we spend, it seems not to fix these problems. So let's try something different. Competition breeds success.
Yeah. I don't know what the answer is. I mean,
I don't need that. I think we just need to try to do new things. What we
'cause
have now doesn't work.
because we're funding schools with property taxes, right? And a lot of times,
And
like the property taxes go to that in the
Yeah,
area.
yeah.
So if
And
you're
then
if you're in
there's-
an area that's super poor, you're not getting fucking tax money.
And I could be wrong. You could look it up. I think there's upstate and different parts of the state relocate sources, like the richer parts of St. Louis. I think that goes to some of those poor parts too. Because I think, Or maybe I'd have to trace down how much they spend because St. Louis public schools do get a lot of money. You'd be surprised.
I'm not really sure where it all comes from. I know a lot of it though is like property taxes of the area.
Yeah, a lot of it's property taxes of the area, and like some of those areas got people who don't pay property tax because it's public housing.
Well, yeah, it's like desolate areas. I mean, you go downtown and there's like not many jobs.
No,
right?
not now. No,
they're food deserts where there's not really any healthy food.
Yeah,
it's like how do you even do anything? How do you bring yourself up? No one's going to open up a business.
Crime, yeah. No. Yeah, we got problems to fix in this society. I just think we need to go about them the right way.
Yeah, I don't know what the way is, but it seems like we could be having some conversations and doing some things about it.
Not getting in pissing matches when they don't belong, you know?
Yeah.
Like this Rittenhouse thing, people should call balls and strikes. Every institution in our society failed. Let's do better. Our media lied to us about it, too. Let's be honest.
The media is crazy, man.
So, I mean, we have to have good institutions that don't fail us.
Yeah.
I mean, did the judge make the right decision? You can say yes. You can say no. It never should have got to that point.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the kids should have never been there.
And that right shouldn't have been allowed to go on for 3 days.
I think the fucking parents should be held accountable in some regard. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Hey,
is that not child endangerment?
You would think.
You know? Like, shit, man, what the hell are you doing? I understand he's 17 years old. He's a fucking boy. I don't care what anybody says.
And you know what, though? Citizens and business owners need to take lawsuits against politicians. That's been proposed by some governors. Be like, look, if you let your city get trashed by people, we're going to waive qualified immunity for the people running the city.
Hold them accountable.
Yeah, because like, all right, yeah, that kid shouldn't have been there, but good Lord. I mean, that was 3 days of basically criminals just taking your city over.
Yeah, at what point are you going to try to like get that under control?
So it's just like when so many institutions fail, bad things are going to happen. It's not just like one did.
Yeah, you know it's never just a simple like this is the reason.
Right, yeah.
There's a whole bunch going on, man.
It never should have got to that judge because it's a bad call either way. Because if he says, or not the judge didn't even make the call, the jury did. If the jury would have convicted him, you're like, under self-defense laws, he was justified. But then, like, okay, are more people going to get fired up to go whack people during protests? And you don't want that, so you're just like, shit.
Yeah.
You know, shit.
Yeah, man. I don't. It's all a crazy situation.
And I hate to say it, if we keep having riots, man, and there's no law and order and just complete anarchy, there's going to be a power vacuum filled by somebody, and you don't want citizen on a large scale.
Yeah.
I mean, if authorities don't get control of this whole situation, it's going to be bad.
I think when you start talking like that,
right,
people hear it and the initial thought is, well, that could never happen here.
Yeah, like Kenosha probably thought that too. It's a quiet little Midwestern town. You know?
You think that, oh, well, not here in America. Right. Like, that's just not what. But it's people forget, man. The world is harsh.
Yes.
And there are people out there who aren't on their fucking phone all day.
Right.
Who have to really struggle to live.
Sure.
And who will fucking eat your eyeballs if they need to.
Yeah.
Like, for real, man.
Yeah.
Like, they will kill you. And they'll take things by force because that's just the way of the world. That's just that's nature. Like, that's the law of nature.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like to be naive and think that the way in which we live here in society like can't change or be disrupted. Right. Like, it's just going to be this way forever. I think that's very short-sighted and naive because, again, this is a very like small period of time where it has been like this. We're very fortunate.
Well, let's take some good from this Rittenhouse situation. If there is any good, there weren't any riots last night. There were peaceful protests.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't agree with that decision, go out and protest it. Do not attack people and destroy your own community. So there's protests all around the country, and they seem peaceful. So, hey, get it out. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
The media is being really irresponsible again. Mm-hmm. And I think some of the people out there protesting, I may not agree with it, but they're doing something in a productive way.
If you feel like you're not being heard and you need to protest and you want to yell and go do that. But the moment you start like, just and here's the thing, I can understand the feeling of like feeling helpless and no one's listening and just being frustrated and angry and like maybe not knowing what to do other than just lash out and then you start getting this whole group think and then it's just this whole contagious like negative energy where everybody is just because we like to think that we're super controlled but like we're just fucking animals and once you start getting the group going crazy then it gets out of hand and then we have this whole fucked up riot situation.
If you're exposed to too much news, man, too much of these news stations aren't news stations, they're partisan. It's the end of the world, this side's going to conquer the country and have their way with you. That'd piss anybody off.
They want you fired up.
If you put me in a room and made me watch like Fox News for 5 hours or MSNBC for 5 hours, I'm going to come out ticked
at
somebody. So it's just,
yeah.
I think some people digest too much of that. So
yeah, like what's your mental diet?
I'm over it, man. I don't want to see any more just violence, any more BS. Let's bring our crime rate down. Let's educate people. Let's all. I mean, because in my everyday life, I get along with people of all races, all colors, man.
Right.
Women. I think that's the American experience to a point.
Yeah.
I think most people get along.
I think so too,
Right,
man.
yeah.
I have some really good friends. Like I don't have to have the same opinion on you.
No.
I have friends who we're on the complete opposite spectrum when it comes to like the vaccine and how things are handled and different things. But you know what? I'll still hug you and tell you I love you and everything's
Absolutely.
cool.
If I see 10 people on the street, 9 I probably get along with.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I just think that's how it is. I think the media and people take too much into it. Like, we're hate each other. We're at each other's throats.
Yeah.
I don't see it that way.
Yeah. And here's the thing, man. Like, I know I have views and opinions, but I don't necessarily think that they're all right.
No,
sometimes I think they're right for me, but I'm very understanding that I could very well be wrong.
Yeah, I have friends I apologize to. Like I told you, like, man, I was wrong and I was out of line.
Yeah.
Maybe let my emotions get the better of me. Maybe I digested some negative news or some guy who's good at propaganda and spinning the wheels. You know?
Dude, I've definitely been just like I've read something, got fired up, and just dove head into an idea without even thinking.
Shit.
Like, oh, what the fuck is this? Or you tend to trust certain people or sources, and you kind of get your information, and then maybe they have an opinion.
Right.
And it does skew in the way in which you think oftentimes, and if you're not aware of that, it's like, man.
Yeah, and I've done that too, man. Like recently, I talked to one of my buddies on Facebook like a total dickwad, and I apologized. I'm like, dude, I owe you lunch, man. I'm sorry. Like, what the hell was I thinking? I went and read my thread. I deleted my comments. I'm like, man,
we're all human,
that's not
man.
cool, man.
Yeah, we're all human.
You know, I mean, if we were around each other, we'd have got fired up for a second. It would have been over. But like, it's online. I can't see you and say, oh, I'm sorry, man. Give him a hug. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I said that. I'm a dick.
That's why it's good just to put down the phone, pick up a book, man.
Right, pick up. I mean, I always have a book going. It's something I've been doing since I was a kid.
Yeah, you're an avid reader. I know you post a lot of different books.
I try, and I like when people post back books for me to read.
Now, how long does it take you to read a book?
Depends on the book. Like this is funny. I usually read educational stuff, like you guys got something to learn information, like you got over there. Like 1984 took me about 3 weeks.
Okay.
I'm reading a book on the Ultimate Warrior now. It's really big, got big writing, but there's a lot of pictures. I didn't realize that till I ordered it. I'm like, this is almost like a kid's book, but I'm still a wrestling fan. You know? So I'm reading a book. It's going to take me about 10 days to read that. I'm about done already. I've been doing it a week.
You try to hit like a time?
I go for a book about every 3 weeks. I want to get about 15 books in a year.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, 15 to 20 is good.
Okay. I usually try to follow like the 10 pages a day thing that like Andy Frisella kind of recommends.
I mean, that's a good benchmark. Some days I get 20. Some days
yeah. I just try like the 10 pages minimum. It's
honestly, yeah.
But some people do like, oh, maybe I'll just read like an hour a day or 30. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know what your...
Andy's got a good idea. I do have a bare minimum of reading I do a day, and honestly... Yeah, I got that from him. I mean, I've been reading my whole life, but I'm just like, oh, okay, he's got a good point. I need to have a minimum just for
at the very least, right? Because it's like some days, like sometimes I'm just mentally like, oh man, I don't really feel like reading. But all right, if you get your 10 pages, at least you hit the 10, and you'll chip away at a book.
And honestly, I read the Bible or other religious scripture, like a daily bread book or something like that every day too, on top of another book. So,
okay, do you do Audible books or anything?
No, I'm old fashioned.
Okay,
I don't even know how to work one.
Really?
No.
It's just like podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I couldn't. I just don't.
Okay. I like to get a good mix. Sometimes I'll be listening to one and reading a book, just depending on what it is. Like, there's only one book that I've always recommended that's like I have the physical copy, but I just know without a doubt the Audible is way better. It's David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me. The reason being,
I've heard that's been on my to-do list.
Dude, the Audible is so phenomenal. The reason being is because so Jesse Itzler, who wrote it with David, like he reads it. He's a phenomenal speaker. He does a pretty good job reading it. But after every chapter, it's like a little podcast. It's Jesse and David talking about what he just read, and then Goggins giving like additional stories or additional content. So you get all this additional content that you wouldn't get just from the book. So I have the book. I
might try that because I don't like to watch a lot of TV. I just do podcasts and stuff. I'll just turn that on, lay in bed, put me to sleep, and then I'll start over.
I'm a big fan of. I prefer hard copy books without a doubt.
Yeah.
I just love the feel of the book. I love the smell. Like I don't like like when people say they read a book and then they actually listen to it, because like reading isn't it's not like, oh, I consumed a book so I read it.
Right.
It's like, how did you like, reading is the way in which you consumed it.
Sure.
Right. If you listen to it, you listen to the book. So
right. As long as you pay attention.
Yeah.
Like, some people read a book and don't know what it's about. They weren't paying attention.
Yeah. Like, you can get the information. I don't know. I'm a stickler on words.
Yeah. 84 is a hard to follow. Like, I know people who read it who don't know basic principles of it.
Really?
Oh yeah. It's a hard one to follow. You've read it. So.
Yeah, it was. I started it, and then like they put that asterisk in there, so then it like took me to the back, so then you could like understand what was it Newspeak was. So I read that whole thing on Newspeak, and then I started the book again, and that helped a lot.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely. I'm glad I read it as an adult. I didn't I just read it for the first time this year. So.
Oh, did you? I read it. I was listening to an interview with Ice Cube of all people, and he made a video in the late 90s called We'd Be Clubbing. And what was in the video was the ending of 1984 where he throws the hammer at the computer screen.
Oh, okay.
And he started talking about that book. And I'm like, I never heard of that. And, I'm a big Ice Cube fan. That's my era of entertainers, Movie star, rapper, the guy, businessman, So I listened to it. I followed him, and I read the book. It was good.
It's a really good book.
Right.
I read it, and then I looked up the movie and watched it.
The movie's not that good.
The movie's awful. It's very underwhelming.
They need a new one, honestly.
Yeah, but honestly though, after watching the movie, it kind of put in perspective of like, that's actually a very short story. Like, not a whole lot happens. Like the details are the key to that one, but like not really a whole lot happens. Like, he meets this girl. There's just kind of this interaction. They kind of, they date and fuck around for a while, and then they get caught, and then they get brainwashed and put back in society. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, there's not a whole lot of shit happening, but when you actually read it, like, it's the psychological aspect that you don't get to pick up in the movie.
Absolutely.
Like, that's where the bread and butter is. Like, what are the thoughts? Like, what are the emotions? Like, what are the feelings going through this guy's head that they don't get to actually portray in the movie?
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So if you just take it on face value, not a lot's really happening.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't translate well to the cinema. Maybe they'll make it better.
Maybe.
Let's hope, man.
Yeah, that was an old ass movie. When did they make that movie?
It was in the mid-'80s
Like
sometime.
in the 80s? Right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
But just the concepts and the ideas, just of the control. It's like, how is that not scaring people?
Well, people quote 1984 without realizing it because it's in our pop culture lexicon now. Big Brother's watching you.
Yeah,
the
double
Truth
speak.
Police,
Yeah.
That's all in popular culture right now because of 1984. People just don't realize it.
You see it all the time. I feel every time you post something on Instagram, like a story, and they're going to put a fucking COVID tag on there.
Yeah, it's a little bizarre.
So you can get information. Like, does that not scare you? What are you talking about? People like, one day that wasn't there, and now it's always there.
Right.
You can't even, you put vaccine on there. You put, like, it doesn't even have to say COVID. You know what I'm saying? And then it sends you to a link to get information about a vaccine. Like, does that not scare people? It scares the shit out of me.
And we can touch the vax part before we wrap this up because we have to. It's a hot topic.
Yeah.
I had COVID. It didn't faze me at all.
Yeah.
So I have, natural immunity to it, so I'm not getting vaccinated. It's just not going to
6
happen.
to 13 times more effective.
Right. But as far as the vaccine goes, here's my problem with it. We were lied to about it, which disappoints me because I wanted us to go back to normal life. I have elderly parents who got it, and now I was like, thank God they're vaccinated. Maybe they'll be okay. Now I'm worried because they can still catch it. They can still get sick and die even vaccinated. So I'm like, oh, crap.
Well, yeah,
like,
there's a couple of things that bother me. One, it's not a vaccine; it's gene therapy.
Yeah,
why are we calling it a vaccine? That's just semantics. And then they use and then they use that to call people anti-vaxxers. Hold up,
I've had a shit vaccinated.
I'm all for vaccinations and immunizations, and I have fucking all of them. That are necessary. I don't get the flu shot. I'm not going to get this.
Well, from a selfish perspective, Adam, and I would give all my Pfizer stock just to have a better vaccine. I bought Pfizer stock when this happened. I'm just like, people are believing anything.
Mm-hmm.
They
should have bought Moderna.
Well, yeah, obviously I don't know it all. We're finding that out. But I'm like, people, like they said, like 3 billion people have gotten vaccinated. 3 billion people in this world don't do anything. The transfer of wealth from buying all these vaccines is going to make Oxycontin and all the opioids look small time.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to spend so much money on this COVID vaccine every year because it is so ineffective. You're going to have to get 2 or 3 shots every year to the day you die, and that really sucks. It's not a one-off.
Well, I think they're talking about like a 1-a-day pill for this. I think Pfizer's trying to develop a 1-a-day pill.
Oh, I'm sure that's going to be good on your liver and kidneys when you take another strong pill every. I mean, maybe my thing is there's time-tested trials and all these clinicals for a reason. They wiped all those off just to get it out there.
Yeah, they.
So
I've heard like this isn't rushed, and I've heard these examples like why it's not rushed. Well, the fact of the matter is, time is built in to these processes
for a reason.
For a reason, and you can't rush time. I can ingest something today and not have an issue manifest for like a year.
Yeah.
That's where the time comes in. You can't shorten time. It's impossible. So it's say we're overlapping these trials, so now we're speeding things up. Like that's not true.
Now we're pumping this into kids. I'm like, holy shit.
That's what scares me.
I mean, even some far left people are like, hey, you're not putting that in my kids.
Yeah.
So.
I think if you're an at-risk population,
get it.
It's your choice.
Yeah.
But why are we saying that everybody needs to do this thing?
It's scary.
That's what's really scary. Like when it's like we're trying to nerf the whole world. I didn't know the life was risk free. People die all the time. It's sad, but it is a fact of life. And the fact that 99.5% of people who are healthy who get this survive.
Yeah, I think it's 99 something. Something crazy.
Yeah. And then if you're a kid, like 18 or younger,
it's something. Yeah, it's almost 100.
It's like minuscule. Like it's nothing.
And why the political ruling class, as we talked about it, got so behind this, I don't know. Why their buddies in the media are on this, I don't know that either.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into the weeds saying, oh, they're all in cahoots together. It just seems bizarre to me. I've never seen so many powerful people get on the same page about one subject ever.
Yeah, there's this huge drive. It's like this is the way, this is the way, this is the way. But it's like, hey, man, listen.
Right.
I don't like how the narrative is if you're not getting a vaccine, then you're probably going to be a burden on the healthcare system. Dude, I can't tell you, I don't ever get sick, like for real. I just got an ear infection a couple weeks ago, and I didn't even take an antibiotic for it.
Right.
I didn't feel like I knew like my ear was kind of fucked up and it was a little stuffy, but I didn't feel awful. You know what I'm saying? If it actually affected me whenever I went to go compete at that.
But, absolutely.
But it wasn't something to where it's like, oh my God, like I am dying.
Yeah.
So it's like if you take care of yourself, you're not really a burden. Like I don't ever get sick. It's like it's so rare that I get sick.
Yeah. So why would you get loaded up on the COVID vaccine? If you've had COVID, maybe you've already had it.
I might have. My son got it, and I think he lost his smell for a couple of days, and that was it.
So I assume he probably gave it to you just being around him and didn't bother you.
Possibly. So they go back. I have two kids. They go back and forth between me and my ex-wife's house.
Sure.
So I know their entire household. They all had it, including my son, and I didn't have it. My fiance didn't have it, neither did my daughter.
Okay.
So I don't know. I want to go get my antibodies tested. I still haven't done that.
I do. I give blood at the Red Cross about every 4 months, and they pulled them and said, "Yeah, you had it." And I got it. I gave blood about 2 weeks ago.
And you didn't know that you had it?
No. I could have got a few different places. My financial planner, like I said, I train him. He had it, and I'm spotting him, and I cleaned up after him at my house on my yoga mats. Wiped his sweat. I was around people at my work had it. And I'm, closer than me to you, away from them, and somebody gave it to me.
Yeah,
it didn't faze me.
I haven't stopped training jiu-jitsu this whole time.
Good for you. And
I've traveled quite a bit.
I went to St. Charles and pumped iron to the gyms around my house.
Nice. Yeah. So I haven't. Yeah. I've been in airports. I went to Nogi Worlds, Master Worlds, Pans. Like I've done all these things.
As long as you had your mask on while you're doing jiu-jitsu, you're fine.
Oh, yeah. Yes, yes.
That cloth mask is a magic amulet.
Baby. Let's get that mask on before we roll.
I buy into that. I'm a huge Dr. Fate fan, and he wore a magic amulet for a mask. You remember the comic book character?
No.
It's
called Dr. Fate.
He's like
I'll look him up.
Actually, he was around before Doctor Strange, and Marvel copied him and made him a lot cooler than actually Dr. Fate is, but he's one of my old school favorites. He's like the magic guy of DC.
Oh, I see him here. Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool.
He's got a great look to him.
He's got a nice, like a Spartan mask.
Yeah, and I don't know why he's not more popular.
That's cool.
Cool magic tricks.
Because he's from Africa. He has an ankh on him. That's why.
Yeah, he's got different.
He's got to be African, right? Because in the center of his chest is a big ankh.
I think that's where he's got a couple different. Helmet's magic, and so's that ankh. I think that is from Africa.
That's an Egyptian symbol, without a doubt.
Yes, sir. He's got various magic things from around the world that makes him Dr. Fate.
I'm about to check homie out.
Yeah.
That's cool. I really dig this stuff. I'm kind of a nerd, but not so much that I dive. I didn't read comic books. I used to love like the X-Men cartoon. That was my jam.
I mean, that's about when I watch shows now. I follow like comic shows. Occasionally I follow a non one, but
I love all the Marvel movies, in my opinion. I love those movies.
Yep.
I like DC movies too, though.
DC movies aren't as good. I read a lot more DC comics growing up. They just have not translated to the screen good.
Yeah, they're not doing it as well as Marvel. I kind of enjoy some of the darkness. Right. I love the whole Christopher Nolan Batman.
Those were the best ones.
Those were phenomenal.
The thing is about comic book movies, people who make them overthink them. You have great stories right there.
Already.
Just don't change them. Just don't do anything. Just open up the comic. All right, Batman does that. The Joker does that. Yeah. Or Superman does that. I don't know why they try to reinvent the wheel with these comic book
That's
movies.
how I feel with video game movies. Like,
yeah, they go off the beaten path.
I don't play video games so much these days, but as a kid, I fucking used to love them. And anytime they made a movie, I'm like, you already had the story.
Yeah, I remember like when I was in the 90s in high school, I wanted to see Super Mario Brothers and a Double Dragon movie. Those were cool games, especially like Double Dragon could have went a lot of cool directions. Yeah. It was hideous.
I was a kid, so I didn't have any opinion on it. I liked them, but I look back on them, they were so cheesy and tacky. They should do Double Dragon again. They could make that thing sweet.
Well, like Mortal Kombat. That Mortal Kombat movie they just made was amazing to me.
I liked it. It's supposed to be a trilogy, so I really am interested to see where they take that.
Me and a mutual friend of ours, he gave me a good point about how weak Shang Tsung was in there. But other than that, it was a great movie.
Yeah.
Those are some of the best fight scenes I've seen on screen.
Yeah.
You could tell the people knew what they were doing.
It was good. It was really good.
I think the guy who played Scorpion is one of the most decorated karate tournament fighters in Japan's history. He's like 60, but you see how he moves.
He's great. So one of my hands down favorite movies is The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And he's one of the samurais in that movie.
Yeah, I mean that's how, and he's been around a while. And the guy who played Sub-Zero's on Warriors, and I think he was on the Indonesian judo team. He's a well-skilled martial artist.
Yeah, they're talking about just how fast he is.
Right, and you could see these guys going. There wasn't one camera trick there. I'm like, holy crap, those are two guys that can freaking go.
Yeah, I really love the choreography that comes in martial arts movies. It's just so beautiful to watch.
Especially when guys actually know what they're doing and they don't have to use a lot of camera tricks. And I'm
it's like when they can just go through it. It's like a dance. It's just so fluid.
Right.
I really enjoy it.
And that's what I think some movies have been missing that lately, but Mortal Kombat nailed it.
Yeah.
If you weren't drawn into that movie, that first fight scene where, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but just watch the opening of that.
You should have watched it by now. If you haven't, then get your life together.
Well, when Scorpion and Sub-Zero go at it in the first part of that movie, that's about as good as a fight scene as you're ever going to see in a movie.
It was great.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Well, Paul, my man.
We could have went for even hours more. You made me late to my workout. My workout partner's going to be flexing on me.
I'm sorry, buddy.
Dude, we need to do this again.
Yeah, let's wrap this up. Tell the people how they can check you out.
Yeah, well, I mean, follow my story on Instagram and Facebook. I'll be doing more. I'm always doing bodybuilding and health stuff, fitness. You're friends with me on Facebook. I do a variety of conversations on various subjects. Let's just keep our minds fresh, people. Talk to people who disagree with you about stuff. Do it politely. I'm a victim of getting too heated sometimes, and if I've ever said anything to you on Facebook or in life, I apologize if I got too heated. Just let's take the temperature down in this country and realize how good of an opportunity we have to live a good life.
Right on.
That's my message, trying to be positive.
Awesome. All right, Paul, I appreciate it, man.
No problem, brother.
All right, bye, everybody.